doesn't talk about. And I was like, oh. Hello.
Maybe hi?
Yes, really, for real. Hi, hello.
Okay.
I still,
We're sure now.
I was talking to my son. I bought him a Stream Deck for Christmas, and I have a Stream Deck that I used very briefly a long time ago, and I'm like, I need to get this set up, because what you can do is to program it to be like, push a button, and it does all the things that I try to have to do when I make us go live. I'm like, turn audio on here, turn this on, turn that off, turn this on.
I agree. That should be a one stop button.
Yeah.
To get all that, to do that. And
you
just
said
you got your son one, or does that mean you're not using one?
No, I'm not using my Stream Deck at the moment. I have it packed away right now, just because it's a thing. It's every time I have to figure out something, it's like, oh, I gotta, it's a whole ordeal. So
like you have to plan like 3 days.
Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, I have to figure it out when it's an emergency. So thus far, Stream Deck has not been an emergency. So hello, everybody. I'm seeing people everywhere.
I'm doing my best here to support a Stephanie Cake research.
Yay!
With
I'm
my
doing
Dr.
my best
shirt.
not to support. I've got Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
And the Night Sweats.
It's a great band. They're a great band.
It's not a band I'm familiar with.
Oh, you would know them if you heard one of their songs, because it was in a Lipton tea. I think it was a Lipton. It was either it was Gold Peak or Lipton Tea. They did a commercial like before the pandemic with one of their songs. So So we've got people here in all kinds of places. So Mama is a Fan is here with us on Twitch. And Druid is here. My dear, thank you so much for doing our AV checks today. Gosh, who's here through... Maradim, hello, hello. Robin's here. Yay! Have I got everybody?
LJ, we've got an LJ.
Okay, LJ's here.
We've got some lurkers too.
Yeah.
On the YouTubes. It actually just reminded me that I forgot to post this link in my YouTube group. I am such a disaster today.
Well, you have a right to be a disaster.
Well, so I do. For anyone that wasn't in the loop the other night, Tuesday night when we did our stream, right beforehand, I was. What is that in the background? Oh my God, my phone. It's my phone. So anyone
I opened a bag of trail mix. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, like I just hear talking all of a sudden, and I'm like, "Are you playing something? What's going on?" So Tuesday, right before our stream, I started feeling really weird, and I had texted Stephanie like, "Wow, I feel like really weird," and before the stream, I was like, "I don't know what's up. Something feels not right." So like, if I just run away, like you'll know. I made it through the stream, but then that evening started a barrage of food poisoning symptoms.
Yes, things went south. Things went south. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So and they stayed that way for like 3 days. Yesterday was my birthday, but I had to spend it doing absolutely nothing. I have turned the corner where my body's no longer rejecting things, but the aftermath is very painful.
You're just depleted. I know when you have something like that, you're just depleted. You're like, oh, you've been putting so much energy into like in your case, I know, like running to the bathroom and awful things like that, but you're just like your whole body. Like, I mean, your body itself is fighting, and on top of that, you can't just lay there because
yeah,
your body's like, no.
Yeah, things are very sore at this point, but so far today, things are looking okay. Yeah, LJ, when I realized that I was probably dealing with like a food poisoning, I'm like, yep, forget coldies. I will say though, when things started like working up, I was like really anxious and nervous it was going to be neurovirus, and I've had neurovirus, and oh my God,
yeah.
Whoa, I had it like 20 years ago when it was like a big deal on the cruise ships. And I was like 17 or something at the time, around there. And I very seriously called my mother from my bedroom and asked her to kill me. Like it was terrible. So I was really nervous that I was going to end up with something like that. So I will say that as awful as I have felt, and this has been, I would rather this over neurovirus any day of the week.
Yeah, I get that.
I was still able to eat, Thank you very much for the happy birthday, Robin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then today, it's snowing.
Oh, we got some snow last night, probably only about an inch. So
we've got, I think, about 2 at least outside. I think that's all we're going to get. But I was lounging I was rotting in bed with my dog, and my phone did this bling. That was my calendar, and I'm like, it's on my calendar, and I look, and it's like stitch and glitch in 30 minutes, and I was like, oh, I hadn't gotten out of bed, I hadn't brushed my teeth, I hadn't gotten a coffee, I hadn't done anything, and I was just like, oh man, because I'm still on the really horrendous sleep schedule, despite having nights not sleeping at all. But yeah, I text Stephanie. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah, I had thought I should have probably messaged you late last night or early this morning just to check in. And I was like, oh, she's fine.
Oh, that's right. Everyone, it's Stephanie's fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. Druid got 4 to 5 inches. Oh, yeah, you where you are, you don't get snow like that, do you? At least maybe not consistently. So I'm sure I where you live, I kind of think about like some of the other places some of the places that my family lives in, you and I have had those conversations. And yes, when it's not consistent, like it's not every season you get it, it's kind of like, oh, y'all, the snow's coming. You got to buy all the toilet paper and all the bread that is in your town.
People didn't go nuts like that this time for this storm, which is probably because like this is New England. But
yeah, you guys, I feel like you guys don't get like the flurry and the hubbub like we get down here. And then we get a fair amount of snow. It's really just been the last few years that we haven't gotten, it's either been just flurries or, a small amount and nothing really terrible. Thanks, global warming, I guess. But yeah, I mean, just 2 hours south of here where my mom lives. And I mean, I grew up there, and it does snow in Virginia, but a couple flakes hit the ground and everybody's like, oh no, we can't drive.
When I was in North Carolina, it was insane. Seeing people like wiped out. I saw the only salt truck in the whole city of Winston-Salem like wiped out on the side of the road. And I wouldn't go out and drive, despite having a four-wheel drive car and born and raised, I wouldn't go drive in it because of the other drivers, not because I was afraid or I was afraid. Like they were
and I think what
not equipped.
Yeah, what people tend to forget is, like snow is really, unless you've got like blizzard conditions. I've driven through that too, and that's scary. Blizzard conditions, like, that's creepy to drive through because you can't see. It's like driving through pouring rain. But for the most part, snow is not a problem. It's the ice. It's the ice that's the problem.
I have to be a weirdo for a second. And when you just said driving through the pouring rain, you said it really fast, and I thought you said porn and rain.
That'll get you.
Yeah, I had to think for a second. I'm like, did she just pouring rain?
Yeah. LJ said ice is impossible. Absolutely.
Yep.
It's the worst.
Well, didn't you guys see when was it Kansas was showing all the video of all the like they were just stuck on the highway just sitting for like 5 hours because of ice, and all you need is just the most minute amount.
I have wiped out on ice twice, and luckily nothing happened. The one time it was like I couldn't stop, and I was like, oh my God. I'm like hitting the brakes and the car's just going zzz. And then the other time I may have bounced off a guardrail a little bit.
If I have to drive, having worked the night shift for many years ago, if I have to drive in blizzarding conditions and we still had to work, they were still like, oh my God, who cares that there's a blizzard? You're still going to work. I would just let them out early, because if you have to drive in a blizzard, I'd rather do it with no one else on the road, because there's a lot less likelihood that I'm going to hit them or they're going to hit me. I'd rather I'll just drive 5 miles an hour. There was one time we left work at like 4 a.m. and it took everyone like 3 hours to get home. And the furthest person lived one town away. Like we weren't all far, but we were just driving 5. But everyone agreed it was better to do that before the rush hour people started. Because I would rather slide and bounce off a guardrail than anything else.
Yeah. So Druid said her town doesn't have resources, which a lot of towns in certain places, especially when you're talking about kind of the South, and that's one of the places where they'll cut budgets. But yes, it is I love early morning or really late night snow because everything's quiet. And if you do go outside,
it makes things sound different.
Yes. And you sometimes, especially if it's maybe that like crystalline snow, you can hear it. It's beautiful for like 5 minutes. And then you're like, oh God, I got to go dig my car out and go somewhere. And I don't want to.
Well, that was the other thing too. I'm like panicking, like trying to like get myself together for 2:00. And I was like, well, I've got to go clean off my car now because I have to go like get coffee. And then like, well, I don't have time to shower, so I guess we're just gonna look the wet and wild look here from being out in the weather. Like,
so Robin LJ said, snow over high winds. I know you guys live much farther west than we do. You're not on the East Coast, so when we have high winds, it's usually where it's bad is when there's been ice and stuff, and high winds will break the trees and power lines and all that kind of stuff. And that often happens like in March. If we have ice storms and stuff, it gets kind of dangerous. But you guys have those like Santa Ana winds and stuff. That's the stuff that stokes the forest fires and all that, isn't it? That's kind
Yeah,
of.
well, before this storm, like in the past week, we've had a lot of ridiculous wind too, and a lot of trees and this and that coming down on people's houses and stuff. It seems like it's an entire week of ridiculous weather everywhere that normally because normally we would never have high winds like that this time of year unless it's part of a blizzard. We just had lots of winds. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
raining, it wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, and this is not, at least for us, this is not the time of year for winds. You know,
Hmm.
what's the little saying like, March is in like a lion, out like a lamb? It seems like March conditions just bounce around wherever they want. Sometimes they're in January, sometimes they're in April.
Hmm.
I mean, that's,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know what to say about it other than weather's unpredictable. I would not want to be a meteorologist. And thanks, global warming, I guess. Oh, LJ says 50-mile-an-hour looks like a small breeze. Oh, Robin said Reno is basically at the base of the Sierras and we experience 60-mile-an-hour winds often. Oh, yeah, that is rough. We sometimes do get that, and it's usually hurricane conditions, and you're like holding on to something like, don't blow me away. So, what are you working on today?
Well, I have a few things. For one, my like sewing desk here is a disaster. Um, in every way it could possibly be.
Mine is too.
Yeah, so I have 75 various projects of things on here, but I haven't, the sad thing is through this like food poisoning, it's not like I could just like hide away in my sewing room the whole time because it that kind of sitting wasn't comfortable. So I'm behind on my Bonnie Hunter mystery quilt that she's done like the full reveal and everything like that. I don't care that I'm behind, but so I might potentially work on that a smidge, but that does require like turning on my machine, which is right here.
Yeah, don't
Um,
do that. You have to mute yourself.
no, you'll just have to listen to it.
I
Um,
refuse.
but I do short burst sewing. I don't do long burst sewing. The other thing I was gonna do is I do have like some finger pressing and some ironing and stuff to do that just requires moving my computer over on the other side of the room. And then the other thing is I need to prep more EPP small hexies for basting. And I have a whole bucket here of
Scraps!
chunks.
Chunks!
Yep, you call them chunks. Because I have another one that's strings, and then
Gotcha.
I have
Okay.
other ones that are like literally like particular sizes. So Maradim is whittling down on mending piles
Ah.
today.
Yeah, I have a mending pile somewhere.
I do not because I can't be bothered.
Well, you know, my mending pile is usually things like the button pops off my husband's pants or the hem of his pants gets like ripped a little bit. And that's usually a really quick thing. But my son tends to bring me things like the entire crotch blew out of my sweatpants. Can you fix that? And I'm like, put it over there. I don't want to deal with it right now. It usually ends up being like, I might as well like just remake you sweatpants because.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm still the person that will still wear those sweatpants around the house. Like,
Oh, he does.
but yeah, I feel like my partner when if he does something to like his jeans that quote would be like a mend, he does way things way more spectacular than a button came up. He did like like the whole ass seam ripped open, and it's usually from like friction, like putting his wallet in and out of his back
Yeah.
pocket, that seam where the pocket
Hmm.
like will rip. So and there are things and it's jeans and it's not just jeans. It's that stretchy jean material
Yeah,
that
that
I'm
stuff
just
is.
like I couldn't care less. Put them in the pile of crap jeans because there is a pile of crap jeans for me to harvest
Hmm.
things from them for projects. But I don't get into the repairing of crappy clothes. I would probably repair expensive, well-made clothes.
Excuse me.
Um,
Yeah, I do repair jeans even if they're the stretchy kind because um for me it's hard to find jeans.
mhm.
And you know, it's like if you have I have this one pair in particular that I absolutely love and I have like the whole inside like crotch and rear has been patched so many times just because, you know, you get the chub rub in your thighs and stuff wears away. So yeah, one day those jeans will all be made out of some other fabric because I will have resewn them so many times. Yeah. Druid says that her roommate does that too with it needs a reconstruction of the whole rear end.
Oh, and my partner is saying, he said, "Excuse you, you hold on, you held on to my pocket as I was trying to walk away, and you ripped them, sweetheart.
I
You're
didn't know
talking
he was
about
here.
one pair of pants. I'm talking about an entire collection of pants, like the ones we discussed the other day, that are getting little holes in the front because you pull your pants up by your belt loops in front." And the stress is starting to. So like
I have to admit I do that myself. I'm really bad about constantly yanking my pants up by the belt loops. Oh man.
You know, and it's funny that like he's gonna come back and argue because I watched this documentary
Accusation on the table.
on
Sorry.
the Jerry Springer show.
Oh, you saw that last night, right?
Yeah, I watched it last night.
Okay, Netflix, right?
Yeah, you didn't watch it yet?
I have not watched it yet.
Sadly, it's only 2 episodes.
Oh.
So, but they're both like 48 minutes. It's not near as scandalous as the Lisa Frank documentary.
Really?
It's not near as juicy.
Well, the thing is, I mean, Jerry Springer, I mean, what is there that would be juicy? It was pretty much all out on a table.
I know. Like, what's there left to tell?
Yeah, there actually, I don't know that like a full blown documentary, but there have been shows about Jerry Springer in the past, like the security guy, the big bald guy that would always come on.
He's not on the documentary at all.
Really? Okay, so
Steve?
Steve. If I remember correctly, I don't know if there was Bad Blood or something. Steve did a documentary a while back. It may have just been like one of those like hard copy kind of interview sort of things, but I do remember seeing a thing with him and him talking about like, you know, how a lot of it was manufactured. You know, that they would provoke.
No, they do talk about that.
They would provoke
like
people to get them to fight.
Yep. They talk about there's ex-producers that they interview. They interview like the head honcho guy who was all just like, yeah, it worked. It was this, it was that. They interview someone higher up from, I think, the NBC network. I think some guy in a suit in a high rise. I'm pretty sure he was a network guy. Don't quote me on that. But they interview a lot of past producers that talk about like how they were made to like provoke people and this and that. But what's interesting is on like the replays of episodes that they constantly are putting, they don't even ever show Steve. And I kept waiting, being like, why are you guys ever talking about like the introduction of Steve and like what that did, like how he became really part of the show? Like they don't.
And I think there must be something like, I don't know, lawsuit, something he did not want to be part of it. Because I think if I remember correctly, it's been so long since I've seen it, but I feel like he was like very, you know, after the whole thing, he was like, I wish I hadn't been a part of that. Like, I think
Didn't he have his own show for a while?
I think I think there was some kind of very brief
spin-off with him. I was looking up Jerry Springer's CV and afterwards because I was looking, they never interviewed him and I was like, oh, and I didn't realize he died in 2023.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that after Jerry Springer was canceled, he was on Judge Judy.
Was he the he was the interview guy, right? Was that him or?
I don't know. I've like never watched that show. I've only ever seen highlights of it, like in real.
Never seen Judge Judy?
No. I'm over that kind of television for the most part.
My husband and I used to watch it all the time, like when the way our schedules would cross, we would both get home just in time before dinner, you know, before we had to have dinner for our small child, and we would watch, you know, like I don't know if there was like a back-to-back of Judge Judy and we'd watch it. Judge Judy's just ridiculous because she's mean.
But yeah, I didn't know that he was on that. I also didn't know that he, before his time as Jerry Springer, was like the mayor of Cincinnati in the 70s. I had no idea. I knew people talked about how he like wanted to get into politics, and I thought you know, he was waiting to become a ripe old man before he did that.
Yeah, no, he
Um,
did all that before the show.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had always thought Druid says to Judy Savage. She is. It's often the people that she's yelling at deserve it.
Steph, you're weird because I'm starting to feel cold too.
Well, you know.
That's that's weird. Well,
Um,
I'm also in a basement and you are not.
no, but my husband and I talked about this the other night because we're like, why is this house so cold? And we think here in this corner where I am is the side of our house. There's two windows on the side of the house, one over by me and one on the other side of this wall. And they're new windows. My husband put these windows in probably 20 years ago, maybe a little more than that. So we know those are they're tight. You know, they're tight in the frames.
Hmm.
So we're like, where is this draftiness coming from? It's coming from our crawl space. We're positive. And we thought about it. And I'm like, when you sit down at my desk, it's like there's a draft under my desk. Well, there's a hole drilled in our floorboards for like our cable
Hmm.
and, you know, some of that other stuff. And we think that it's just cold air's blowing up out of the crawl space in some of these holes, like where our baseboard pipes come up and, you know, all that kind of stuff, which the baseboard pipes are fine because it's hot water going through there. So there's nothing cold blow through there. But all the other little holes in the house is where and I'm just like, you know, you can't get ahead sometimes with an old house.
I mean, can't you just like kind of like take like a towel or something and just plug up that hole around the cables to at least help some of the draft?
Yeah, you can. And we do stuff like that. Like we have a floor grate from the old, because we used to have a forced air. It was like the original, I guess when they put heat in this place, it was the original boiler. Like, and there's a grate in the floor, and most of the year we just have like a throw rug over it just to keep, because one of our cats is afraid of it, so she'll walk around it, and then just stuff
How
falls
big
in it.
is it?
It's very big. It's probably
Oh, okay. So I was like, you're talking about this like it's the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, no, it's legit. This, I mean, it's big. People, if you know what I'm talking about, you know you know it. Like if you know, you know, you've seen
I
one.
mean, I have some of those holes too, but like
Hmm.
they're not big.
No. This is big. It's got probably a manhole-sized piece that you can take out, and then it's got like a frame around it. So
Oh, you're
again, if
talking
you
about the crawl space. I'm talking about the holes.
no, I'm talking about the grate. This is the grate for the forced air. So we used to have like again an oil
Oh,
burner, and it was forced air, and it would come through this giant grate, and it's like you can't. It's not like you can't avoid it. Like you can't just put a piece of furniture over it or something because it's right in the middle of our.
okay. No, then I agree with the cat.
Yeah.
I would not want to walk on the
Well,
grate.
I've gotten my toe caught in it before because it's sort of ornate. So anyway, we put a throw rug over it in the rest of the year, and it's just to keep it safe and the cat like not losing her mind. But I've literally put a beach towel over it now to make sure every little corner is like plugged up. It's crazy, you know what you got to do in an old house just to. Yes,
Yeah, I
intake
need
grate for a
to.
forced air heater. Actually, Robin, it's not an intake grate. It is a outtake. Like the hot air would come up out of it. So
So you don't have radiators?
no, no, this house would have predated radiator technology.
Well, I mean, technically, like, no, mine probably would have been like when it was really coming out.
Yeah, I think houses like Vic,
I'm all radiator.
yeah, Victorian era houses. I think your
Well,
post Civil War.
it's 1880, so I feel like
Hmm.
it's like right in like, because they did have fireplaces too.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
They're just not working anymore.
Hmm. Well, I want
Um,
to say I would guess, and again, I am not a expert on this, so anybody tell me I'm wrong, please. But
Druid, look up when radiator technology was like mainstream in like New England.
But I was gonna say my guess is it probably became more of a thing after the Civil War, because again, you're talking about oil burning furnace type technology that I think
Mhm.
like industrial revolution type of conditions would have. And my guess is earlier in the century, it just maybe was not within the abilities of the average homeowner. I don't know. These are just all guesses. Yeah. But anyway, yes, we have multiple capped fireplaces. Ah, the heating radiator was invented by Franz Sanjgali, a Russian businessman, around 1855. My house was built in 1853. So, yeah, that makes sense that radiators then, would have proliferated at the end of the 19th century.
Right, because I mean, if it's invented in 1853, if it's anywhere, it's only in really wealthy households at that point.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I can also see. I mean, again, the all of the 19th century has got all this industrial revolution stuff going on, and in particular here in the U.S. after. And I don't know if this guy, a Russian businessman, was he here in the U.S. or was he actually in Russia? Or I mean, it's cold in Russia, so it makes sense that.
Sure is.
Yeah. So, but I think and because we're reading over on my stream, we're reading the
Heritage of Cotton.
Yes.
Not Empire. Heritage.
Not Empire, the Heritage of Cotton. And we're on the section about we just finished the section, or no, I think we have a few more pages on the section about the Industrial Revolution and all the machines. And on Monday we're going to look at some videos of machines. So, the year 1872 saw the invention of the Bundy loop, a popular design that created the kind of early radiators that form the basis of many modern heating products. Okay, so there you go. The way that
that's what I've got. Yep.
In the second half of the 19th century, cast iron radiator systems became hugely popular in America. Yep. Oh, LJ's wondering if anyone on the cotton growing board has read Heritage of Cotton or Empire of Cotton. Wonder. Interesting.
I mean, I really want to say that, like, I hope so, but I know that, like, the likelihood is probably not,
one never knows. One never knows.
I feel like
Sangali invented the heating radiator in St. Petersburg. So that is technology that would have had to come out of Russia and across the rest of the world.
I wonder if that technology would have been brought then to one of the, like, Empire exhibitions or,
yeah.
Those trade shows that,
Yeah, there were those World's Fair
What
things.
the hell was the one? Was it like Philly?
Yeah, so the Philly was the Centennial exhibition, so that would have been 1876. And then there was the big one in Chicago, the Columbian Exposition. I can't remember what date that was, what year that was. Was that 1880s? Or was it earlier than that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I've read the book.
Like, I see it referenced all the time, but...
Yeah, I've read the book. It was it was like a historical fiction but it was kind of also supposed to be based in fact. What was the guy's name? His first name is Eric. And the book is called Devil in the White City. And it's about H.H. Holmes. But also about the Columbian Exposition. And that's where I learned a lot of really great information about the Columbian Exposition. Because he uses a lot of accurate, like 100% accurate data in there. And the H.H. Holmes stuff is all kind of anecdotal.
Oh my God, Virginia Coal Museum is here with us.
Alicia.
And says Chicago was 1893.
1893, okay. Yeah, all right. So 1876, the Philadelphia one would have been much earlier. But, under industrial revolution conditions, it's almost like what we deal with now under, technology conditions. Things move quickly.
Yeah. So what the hell are you working on? Because I don't think you said.
I have such a pile of stuff, and I'm really just working on this kind of broderie purse piece.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna have it's from a piece of it's like that upholstery canvas kind of stuff. I think it would have been draperies or something. I have not done any kind of research on this toile. I guess it would be considered a toile. But it's from the 80s, I think, when this piece of fabric was printed. Because at first I was like, I should probably make sure before I cut into this isn't like... I knew it wasn't old, but I was like, is this some kind of maybe some rare upholstery? So I checked it. I'm like, nah, it's not anything special. So snip, snip.
Not anything anyone's going to be upset about.
Nah. But, last time, I kind of actually wanted to get everybody's opinion because last time, I was working on...
I was just going to ask about that.
Yeah. And so the way that I decided, is to have it so that this wraps around. It kind of wraps around. The ribbon wraps around twice.
Mm-hmm.
And so my concern was the embellishment here at the tip. With the ribbon wrapping around, I was kind of like, I don't think I want to put anything there because I'm worried the ribbon will get shreddy. But I did do the embellishments on the inside. And the original, as well as the pattern instructions, had these little like rosette kind of things on either side of the pockets. So like here and here. But I decided just to put mine in the center, and I don't know if it's going to zoom in well, but what it is a little ruched piece of ribbon, silk ribbon.
It looks like a pansy.
Yeah, and in the center, I've got a little sequin star and then like just a little loop of tiny beads. And I don't know how much I love this embellishment. At first I was like, oh, it looks so good. I love the colors. And then I'm like, I don't know. So
well, what would another option be if you were to remove that?
Well, I would have to get more ribbon if I'm going to do something with the ribbon. I did have some other ribbons, but like nothing worked out. Like the one ribbon I did, you were like made fun of it. So which might be, you called it because it was like a kind of a pinkish tan, and you were like,
it was like skin color.
Yeah, you were like, it looks like a butthole, and so I feel like perhaps
it really did.
I feel like perhaps your making fun of my craft really brought it on you, but that's all I'm saying. And I don't think I ever showed this.
Do you want me to let you go through life like with buttholes like just out in the open? Like that would be like me not telling you when you have a boogie. Like, hey, you got a butthole, like
okay.
Maybe you should pull up the picture and ask other people's opinion. Those are cute.
I'm trying to think. I might have deleted the picture. Because I was like, oh, God, she's right. It looks terrible.
Well, and when you sent me the next one with, like, the pansy, at first, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, did she just painted the one that she had? And I was going to be like, so is that a painted butthole? And then I realized, oh, it's a different thing.
Tinier
But
ribbon,
I was like, that looks much better because I also just really like pansies. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely biased.
Yeah, but I think what I'm going to do is just sort of maybe just leave it like this and just sort of sit with it for a while. Maybe even start using it and just see.
I thought originally you said you were doing. Robin says friends don't let friends show buttholes. I thought you were going to use like buttons or something. Am I making that up?
No, the original had buttons. So the original had, again, it was they were little doodads here in the corners. And it was like a little ruched piece of like ribbon. And I want to say like Dawn's instructions and kind of what the original looked like. I think we're using this ribbon, the same ribbon that you bound it with. And I decided I didn't want that. And and then the little buttons that they were using on either side were like those fancy thread buttons, the ones where they sort of wove the thread around to make it almost looks like a little crochet, over a bead kind of thing.
Yeah. Marodim said pansy's much better than a butthole. You know what would be cute is you know how you said like the EPP is a great way to do fussy cutting. So like in like your if you on the outside like if you made like a big diamond that was like a big cat face or something and it was all cat themed, and then your little I could have
done that.
Yeah, and then like so if you wanted to still use those ribbons, then on the inside your embellishment is like little buttholes. Sorry.
With their little tail, just a little tail.
Yeah, like I really love those crocheted cat coasters that are like have cat
a cat butt. Yeah. Like what is up with cats? Like, oh, you're feeling
that
sad.
Voiceover.
Here's my butt.
Yeah, I love that voiceover on like reels. It's like, look at my fancy butthole. Man, things get wild over here on Stitch and Glitch.
But you know what? All cats are like that. My cats are like that. I'll be like kicked back on the couch reading a book, and they'll come like stomp, 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 and then their tail and their butt right in my face, and I'm like. So I started doing what they do. I go really hard, and they're like.
Careful, or they'll start using that as like a blow dryer when they're done like doing their stuff. They're like, here, give me a little blow.
My cats, they're the worst.
So, so, so you're working then on the broderie purse.
The broderie purse, yeah.
Mhm. I am currently sorting through these scraps to pick ones out to um get ready for basting because I haven't done any handwork the whole time I've been down and out, and it's because I didn't have any basted, like ready to fully baste. And when I say ready to fully baste, y'all, Stephanie had suggested that I use like a little dot of like glue in the center to keep the thing from moving. It's amazing. So I can't thread base now without that
Sometimes
because
I know what I'm talking about.
sometimes I can't be trusted to like keep the tension right so that like the thing doesn't keep like all the fabric on one side. It's so much less
Yeah.
stressful.
Well, yeah. And I feel like you can kind of go faster. If you just have that little bit there, you
Yeah.
can kind of quickly, yeah, you don't have to worry about it
And
slipping.
also like I have found the thread basting to like be almost as enjoyable as like the actual like
Yeah,
paper piecing
and
part.
I think that's something that I think that people who don't really love hand sewing, I think they're challenged to kind of reframe it for whatever reason. I mean, some people it's like the act of just sitting down and like not doing something particularly active is challenging for some people, just based on just how they like to do things. But I think once you really get in the groove of hand sewing, you can almost divorce yourself from the end product, and you can just say like, I'm just doing this little sort of production over and over and over, and then that becomes the meditative process of hand sewing. And I think when I've talked to people that are just like, oh, that's a lot of work. And I get it. Yeah. If you're thinking about like this, and I know everybody's like, Stephanie, you did that really fast, but I didn't because I was very meticulous with this.
No,
And I,
compared to normal regular people, you
shush.
did that would have taken me a long time. And you're forgetting too that I watched you work on some of it.
It took me about, I would say, well, and there were like kind of long periods of time I didn't work on it because I was working on other things, but it did take me about 4 months, 4 or 5 months.
Didn't it only come out in like the end of September?
Yeah, so she released it. She released the pattern right when we were kind of in the end of the Mary Witherwax 100-day project, and that ended in September. And I literally bought the pattern, I want to say the day after she released it. So, and I started on it almost immediately.
So October,
No,
November,
it was most of September, I think. So, like at least half of September or most.
but you said that there were big periods of time you didn't work on it. So
Like
it couldn't have
last
been 4 or 5 months.
month. So I didn't work on it last month. But
So therefore it could not have taken you 4 to 5. You're fired. Just everyone agrees with me, no one agrees with you. Okay?
all right.
You did that. You did
Okay.
that very fast.
Okay. Well, it's that speed I'm hoping for my study quilt because I have made no progress on that baby.
Well, I don't even think she got to fully upload the pattern to Etsy before like she's literally laying in bed the day she's going to release it and she wakes up to like money under her nose and you're like, "Come on, give me the pattern." Like,
Wake up, Dawn. I need this pattern. I need it right
yeah,
away.
so I remember when she posted some teasers for that and you were just like, "Oh, like
Yeah, well, because some of Dawn's patterns, I mean, obviously the quilts, those are, a quilt is a big undertaking, an applique quilt.
mhm.
But some of her other little kits for the smaller sewing items, she's let a cross stitch, and her cross stitch is minute and perfect, and I am just not a big cross stitcher. It's just not something that just excites me, and so I was super excited. This one did not have any cross stitch and it had English paper piecing. So I was like, that's right up my alley. So
Did I also show everybody? I don't remember about my the tin that I'm using to hold my EPP stuff.
That's really cute. I like that one.
And then it's got the that little girl advertisement that you see on the top.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a tin like that. I know that like Coates and Clark and Singer and stuff have released a whole bunch of little things like that.
I have So I got this one. I have a couple of different Singer ones. There's actually a Singer tin on my business Instagram that's been sitting there for a while. It's not shaped like this. It's just a regular like tin.
Hmm.
Um, I'm actually surprised that that hasn't been more interesting to people. But yeah, I was looking for something to put my stuff in because before I was just kind of like willy-nilly whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I already had that and I was like, "Oh, look at that." But like I just to show like I'm making like decent progress on things.
Yeah.
I have yet to take out a single paper. There are papers that I can take out, but I have not touched them yet.
Yeah, I don't take out papers until you have like big swaths together. And you always want to leave the ones all around the edges until you get the next. But yeah, it actually does make things easier if like once you kind of get like a big hunk, take out the papers in the middle and then you could scrunch the piece up as you stitch. It makes it a little bit easier.
Well, so like right now, I just keep putting this in this little baggie. What do people do when stuff starts to get big? Like for transport, do you fold it up
Mm-hmm.
like a regular quilt?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't like mangle stuff?
Not really. I mean, the papers, you'll end up bending the papers, but I mean, just bend them back. I mean, you have to bend and fold the papers anyway as you're starting to
Hmm.
stitch the pieces together, so it's no big deal.
I just figured like with the papers in there and like folding it, it would put a lot of stress on the threads.
Mm-mm. No,
No, no.
because once you have, I mean, in this case, these are tiny diamonds, I realize, but once you have stitches around all four sides of one of these, so any stress on any part of it, it's still got the other edges to, so I
I
personally
even
think English paper piecing to me is as long as you've stitched it reasonably firmly and not like whip whip I'm done, but stitched them together. Yeah, it's strong. I think it's stronger than regular piecing, but
I it makes me like I don't have any plans to stitch anything small any bigger than a wall hanging. But
mm-hmm,
like when bigger tops, I think about the things I do in bed. And one thing for me when it comes to quilts is I'm a tugger. I pull my
mm-hmm,
quilt all the time. So when people say like that they put an antique quilt on their bed for the night and like, well, I'm going to use it because I'm just like, I can't use that
right,
because the way that
yes,
I use a quilt would
yes,
not be good for it unless you were
yeah,
having it folded at the foot of your
mm-hmm.
bed. Cool. But people that
I
feel
think that's
really comfortable, yeah,
yeah,
I'm like, I would not feel good about that. I even on my bed, what's on my bed now is a real quilt. And when I say real, I mean not
a
mass
real quilt.
produced. It's made by, a quilt maker artist, and I bought it from her. It's beautiful. It's a star quilt. Why have I never taken a picture of it? It was purchased to hang on a wall in the house. It's too big for the wall. And when she was making it, I was like, I think it's gonna be too big, but I mean, whatever. So it does have a sleeve on it, but it's just too big for the wall I wanted it for. So I use it on the bed. Um, but I'm constantly like thinking about like, oh God, I'm a puller. So the thing that we keep doing originally by kind of accident, but when I think about it, I'm like, oh, it's good, is most of the time I'm pretty anal about like the top of the quilt's gotta be at the top of the bed. Um, but because my
Flipping
partner
it, yeah.
rolls around like a pig and like when he gets out of bed, the blankets look like a pile of beetle dung. Like it's just a ball in the
Like
middle.
chewed
Like
gum.
I can get out of bed and just go like this and like the bed's made. Anywho, But because of that, the blankets constantly have to be like put on. And it means that we're not always having, quote, the top of the quilt at the top of the bed. But I was like, you know what? It's going to even out the stress. So,
Yes, and I did that myself. You know, my grandmother made us a quilt for a wedding gift, and it was just like cheater cloth, and then she quilted it, and she sashed it. It was really pretty. But
he said, "Do y'all see this a boost?"
I was wondering if he was still here. Yeah, I know you. I know how you are. You leave everything looking like chewed gum, buddy. But yes, I would do that too, and because there was no hanging sleeve on it. It was just a regular. There was really no top or bottom. It was queen size, so you couldn't necessarily turn it sideways without it being a weird shape. But yeah, because my husband has a beard and I do not have beard guards, that the binding quickly was a problem. And so I'm like, all right, before I have to replace all this binding, I'm going to keep rotating the quilt until it's really bad. And I did end up having to put a new binding on it, but
Yeah, luckily this one is because it's a square, it's a star, like a big kind of like Lone Star situation. It's a little more on the square side. Accusations. Da, da, da. Yeah, you need that Stream Deck thing so you can play the sounds like Mary used to play.
I really do. I do. I was watching a YouTuber last night, and her on her one of her lives. She doesn't do it on her regular videos because I think they're edited and produced. But yeah, she has all the sound effects, and I was like, oh man, I need some sound effects like Mary had.
Yeah, I mean, you literally have the device, don't you? You just need to
I
program
do.
it.
Yeah, I get it is a matter of programming it, and actually the audio, just to do sound effects is not that difficult, but it's
I was gonna say, there's someone in the chat here that has his all set up. Make him set up yours too.
well, there's someone who lives in my house that has one set up and had it set up the night I bought it for him. So, and he goes, "Yeah, I know everything there is to know about Stream Decks now." So I was like, "All right, come set mine up," and he's like, "I got
Yeah.
you." Well, I got you means anytime from tomorrow until 6 months from now when I harass him daily.
Yeah, see, it's a common theme here that people
Yeah, I
have
was gonna
partners
say.
rolling like
I
the
saw,
Dorito.
yeah, Marodim has the same problem. Not only a wallowing pig with the covers, but also a cover hog. Yeah, my husband often will have his own blankets as well, because for a very long time, I would be freezing cold. He'd be burning hot. Never the twain shall meet. So he would get a sheet, and I would get all the covers.
Well, keep in mind, I have the covers, and then I also have an industrial size fan that I have on all year round. I will say it serves two purposes though. Is the house is on an insanely busy road, but it's not just busy with car traffic, it's busy with 18-wheeler traffic. There's an industrial park a mile or so away. I actually and it drives me bananas because it's a thickly settled area. It's a school zone and they're doing 40. If
Oh my.
40 plus because we also have like those really cool kids that want to Fast and Furious stuff. Anyways, it's a bone of contention for me, but those 18-wheelers are loud at night. So the industrial fan drowns all that out. The only thing we can't drown out is like when the house occasionally shakes from it. If there's a Pepsi plant down the street and some
You live in an industrial park, right?
some other stuff. Technically, no, but
Yes,
there is an option that they could force them to bypass our street. I really wish they would because they've put in a stoplight to try to slow them down, but it's only a matter of time before there's a big
well,
because
we have
honestly,
yeah.
even with the weather, if one of those 18-wheelers carrying a lot of cargo slides, it's going into a house.
Yeah, that's
There's
not
nothing
good.
to stop it.
Yeah.
There's no guardrails.
Well, 18-wheelers are not allowed on my street, but certainly any other kind of delivery vehicle. And we live between two fire stations, and they will frequently cross. So, yeah, we have the same kind of noises, and I often will run fans for the noise. But also, when I stay at my mom's house, it is so quiet at her house because she lives like deep in a neighborhood. And even though there's decently busy roads around, it's just she's far enough away from them that it's so quiet that if you do hear a noise, it's scary. You're like, what is that? But when there is no sound, like the silence is almost deafening. And I remember that as a kid. And my dad would run fans because he had to have like white noise. So I guess that I don't know if it's genetic, like I have my dad's need white noise, or if it's just conditioning from growing up, with the fan. I know a lot of people though that white noise is kind of important to their sleep.
Oh yeah, I can't live without a fan. I literally have a small fan that I will bring on a plane.
Yeah.
Like
I'm familiar.
I'm not
I do too. I also have a white noise machine for my bedroom, so.
There was one night that we lost power. And of course, every time we lose power, the dog freaks out because one thing we often forget is that like our house from all the electricity running has a generalized humming sound. We just don't hear it.
Yeah.
So
she does.
Dog,
she does, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the dog freaks out. So it was on this occasion that like we had lost power for like a significant period of time, and she won't relax, so I can't relax. So I literally looked on YouTube and there was a video of the sound of a fan playing. And I literally like put that on until obviously my phone died because I just was trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, and you couldn't recharge it. So
well, I mean I could. I would have just had to go back out to my car, but I was just like, okay, hopefully this gets us to the point of being able to fall asleep, and it worked. So just so you know, if you ever need that kind of white noise, you can find that on YouTube.
Yeah, no surprise. You can also just find like all kinds of nice white noise kind of not fan necessarily, but other sounds.
No, it has to be a fan.
See, and for me, I really actually like those combination noises, like brown noise, pink noise, green noise. They are a different.
Are you talking about like those delta wave things?
No, not necessarily. So that stuff, that like binaural beats and those, some of that stuff is like, I don't know. It's I guess it's controversial as to whether it really does anything for you. I personally think it does, but whatever. But no, white noise, brown noise, pink noise, and green noise are about how they combine a bunch of sounds, and I guess what the is it the hertz or the modulation of the sound or whatever. And it just sounds a little bit different. If like mine has a dial that you can switch between them, and you can definitely hear the difference. And it's kind of like which one makes you feel, and for me, I think right now it's green noise. I like green noise, whereas brown noise makes me like a little like it's well, and then pink noise is too like busy. Like it's almost like there's a crying baby sound in there or something. Like, ugh, I don't like that one. But that's the crazy thing. My white noise machine actually has giggling children. I'm like, no, I don't want to hear children while I'm trying to sleep. Like, I'm a mother. I can't listen to children to put me to sleep. That's weird. Anyway.
Yeah, Martin says my fan is a foot from my face every night. Best sleep aid ever.
Yeah,
because the thing with me too is, of course, I want the noise, but I also want the breeze.
Yeah.
I'm a hot sleeper.
Yeah. I can understand that too.
I want to be able to like, stick a foot out or something, or people that sleep in these really warm, stuffy, toasty rooms. I'm just like, oh God, I can't breathe.
Scientifically, you don't get good sleep in a warm room, supposedly.
No, you're supposed to be chilly.
It's supposed to be kind of chilly, and you sleep better when your body temperature can lower some.
I love a nice chilly room, but like I'm all nice and cozy under all the quilts.
I understand that. I think every quilt lover can understand that, even if they get hot under a quilt. So could we shift? I have a question that, based on our conversation with our friend this morning over chat, I started thinking.
We had a conversation this morning? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm like, do you mean like 2 a.m.?
No, this morning, this day. discussing like pretty famous books about quilting and textiles and errata, or maybe not necessarily mistakes that were made in the writing of the book, but new data that has come out since the book was written. You know, we know lots of, I mean, we have friends as well as just, you know, colleagues within the research community that have written fantastic books. And we probably have since the 70s to now, you know, many of these ladies we know, and they're still researching and writing, but there's just a treasure trove of books about all kinds of different, you know, just generalized quilting and fabric topics, all the way down to, you know, quilts from a very specific area or types of textiles. Anyway, we've got this treasure trove of information, and beside that, I have to, like, most of you were probably around for my rant the other day on my stream. And you know, kind of the issues that I'm having with people, you know, folks that have more years of experience in research than I do. I realize that I make lots of mistakes in my research, or there's just lots of things I don't know yet, or I don't know what I don't know. And some of our friends are super at sending us little clues like, hey, have you looked at this? Or did you know that this existed? Or have you seen this article? And I'm like, you know, it always blows my mind when I get something new like that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know about this. I gotta like add this to my database, you know, like reevaluate my knowledge. So there's an expectation that if you're going to be a researcher, you're going to take advantage of anything that comes your way to educate yourself. And so we kind of get dinged if we don't work that hard, you know, like don't come into a community just asking questions if you haven't tried to do the research first. Like that's kind of and I agree with that to some degree, because it's like you can't just put your hand out and say, give me all the answers. You have to put the work in. That's what research and history, you know, people who love history, that's the thing. That's what you do. If you just want to be handed answers, just go read a book. And I mean, that is part of research. But as we were discussing with, you know, our friend, and there are some of these writers that either they themselves have come out with new data to kind of cover, you know, the errata, the changes, whatever in their books, or there are other groups that, like a particular like local quilt study group that went in and examined a book and kind of found things that have been, you know, new research has changed what that means, whatever. Well, my question is, none of this is available to us easily. You know, that quilt study group that, you know, maybe looked at a particular book and, you know, sort of documented page by page, here's all the things that, you know, we would suggest are new findings, or, you know, previously held thoughts that have been changed, all that. So if I were to read that book without knowing somebody has done the work to add to it, to document errata, etc., what am I supposed to do?
I mean, it's really just, so all books that are nonfiction are a snapshot of information at any one given time.
Exactly.
Because,
and I understand that.
yeah, because everything's changing. Some people think only things like science can change as we like discover more about our universe, but that's not true. History can change too if we find more evidence about something.
You find a diary that totally debunks an idea that everybody held. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's exciting. That's what's exciting, because history isn't written in stone necessarily. You know, there are facts, there are things that we've documented, but then there are all these other bits of knowledge, ephemera, all the stuff that can inform those changes. I get
more
that.
More context.
I get that. But here before I think I know where you're going with this, but just to put it out, you know, to really clarify what I'm talking about here. If you're going to hold me accountable for researching to find the right answer, but I'm going to research reading these books that these famous people who supposedly have the answers have written, but their research that changes any of that is not readily available, why are you holding me accountable? You know, it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. It's like, read these books, here's the research, but I'm reading a book that's got incorrect information in it. I'll give you one example. I'll give you a really good example and it's a very tiny one. In my Dr. Dunton research, there is this piece of information that it's really minor, but it was printed in the Baltimore Sun, I want to say in like 1930s, 1940s, somewhere in there where he was interviewed. And I don't know whether he misspoke and the, I don't know,
Or he was misquoted.
yeah, he was misquoted or there was some misunderstanding there.
Or if he really said whatever he really said.
Who knows? Dr. Dunton was kind of an oddball sometimes. But basically, it was about he had written a cookbook as a teenager. And he printed it on his own little printing press. And it's so charming, right? Well, the person who, the journalist or the reporter had said, you know, this whole thing about the title of the cookbook and where he got the idea for the cookbook. Well, come to find out, in further research I did, I found at a university some, you know, correspondence that he had had with somebody and the cover of the cookbook. And what he tells this person in this letter does not quite match up with the newspaper article. And with the cover of the actual little book, he I don't know if he just torn it out or he just had like a torn copy. It was the cover of the book and several of the recipes. And it directly conflicted with what's in the newspaper article. The name of the cookbook is totally different. Oh. So I was like, all right. But if you go out on the internet and you look for any research about Dr. Dunton, you're going to find the incorrect information because it's everywhere. Because it was reported in the Baltimore Sun, and that was the resource a lot of people, you know, writers and researchers before me were looking at with Dr. Dunton. And so it's really hard for me to change that. I mean, I can't go out there and edit those papers and articles and websites where people have put that out there. And right now it exists in my lecture. There are recordings of my lecture out there. A number of people have seen my lecture, but it's like, how do you get that updated without like writing a book about Dunton? So that's an example. And you know, sometimes you'll get books then that have like some little piece of info in there. So how do we stop perpetuating things that are incorrect when you discover the answer? And
well, I think the other issue too, uniquely, well, not uniquely to us, but uniquely to more niche topics,
which
is that
I would say ours is a niche topic somewhat.
Yeah, is that the publishing moves slowly. If you were in a topic that's way more prolific, I don't know, American history, just in general, publishing, the number of books that come out every year about all facets of American history, like come out really, you know, wars and things, those books are published constantly. But there's not a ton of like nonfiction quilt related books other than pattern books that are like coming out all the time.
Right.
So, just a little smidge of this discussion was just about like 20-year-old books and like reading those and things like that. And it's for me, this is a question where the answer is like a yes and, because it's like, yeah, I can see the issues you can run into with those books. Do I think that makes them not valuable? No. Like, I think they're valuable and so, but in listening to you articulate your thoughts here, it makes me wonder if that means that a place like an American Quilt Study Group should also become a repository for updates. You know, like, should that be part of their membership, that authors have a place to update their books without having to republish? Because that's the big problem, right? That's the barrier, is constantly trying to republish, like an Encyclopedia Britannica. You know, one came out every year, but when you bought those things were hella expensive in the 90s when people were really getting it.
My grandparents bought some in the 60s, and I can't even
like,
imagine.
I remember it became a real big deal for like everyone to try to have them in the 90s. But like, they immediately became out of date the next year. But people weren't going to buy those every year. So, I mean, I'm glad that really kind of stopped, that trend stopped. And it's really a thing for libraries now to keep updating those. But like,
Wikipedia, man. I would never look at an Encyclopedia Britannica from 1960 because there's Wikipedia.
So like,
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree, Alicia. We do need a database for updates. Well, and the example that our friend gave us was that, there's a book that I can't remember. I think I have the book, written by a pretty well known person within our community, and she did a special, like what we call them study centers, with AQSG, but it's basically like you're kind of presenting what your research looks like so far. It's not really a lecture. You're presenting your research, and the audience can kind of be like, oh, hey, I have some data, I have some info. So they're really great. But the thing is, again, that is limited to the people that were there. It was not recorded, I'm sure, because we've only really recently started recording those, since we've come in. So, oh yeah, LJ, you know it. People like to hold on
LJ,
to that.
some of this conversation really comes out of
it does.
people talking about that recently. But that's a little bit different because that's not a scenario where like information was quote updated. That's a little bit different.
Well, right. The Underground Railroad that's a whole ball of worms, but
because like the people,
a whole can
a
of
lot
worms.
of the information that like we're talking about that people have like published in books and things, it was the best information at the time.
Right.
Like
And
it was correct at the time.
Yeah, and the example I'm giving about the study center is it's her own book. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's fantastic that she came out with, something where she said, I don't know how many years the interval was between the time she wrote the book and the time she did the study center. I mean, it could have been decades. I'm not sure, but I love that. You really, really can look at somebody and say, this person has this lifelong focus on this particular research, in that, say, a decade later, they're still researching and they can go back and say, here's the things I didn't know, or here's the things that we found the answers to. And I also think it's fantastic that she presented this, these updates to a niche organization that would really care about that. But I go back to the fact that, like, as me, if I was researching those particular quilts that she wrote about, and that, it was very, very niche topic, I would have no idea that she had released anything, that she had done any kind of like updates. So my question is, and now that I do know she did updates, if I want to research that book, do I need to reach out to her and say, hey, well, let's just call her Jane Doe. Hey, Jane, I heard that at some point you did this update. Like, can you tell? I don't know how.
Right,
to,
you have to rely on other people that know to mention
exactly.
it to you.
And even knowing that she did that update, how do I access that information without going, give me your updates? Darn it. I mean, because that would be terrible too, to say like, hey, I'm sure you have a PowerPoint, send it to me. Like that's not appropriate either.
Like Alicia mentioned, is like we would kind of need, like, so those academic journals that you can subscribe to, that they're very expensive. They're like $170.
Yeah,
a
I
year,
know. We looked at
like
one
that.
the other day that I was like, oh, that'd be so cool but no,
or
I can't afford
like
that.
a JSTOR or something like that. Something usually institutions subscribe to, but I feel like an AQSG type organization, something like that, could create a database like that where it's part of your membership, and maybe that part of that would also and I don't know how all the publishing world works. I full disclaimer.
Yeah, and
but if you were to
publishing has
publish, let's say, an
changed.
update, maybe you do get some kind of monetary return for that.
Well, and I mean, it could. So I understand. I mean, I don't know anything about the publishing world other than to know it's changed a lot. Probably, in our example, the Jane Doe we're talking about, I don't know how long ago she wrote that book because I don't have it in front of me, but my guess is it was probably at least 10 or 15 years, if not longer. So yeah, things have absolutely changed. And I know that it's hard to go back and do a second edition. Publishers are like, yeah, we're moving on, especially the publishers, some of the books in quilt and textile history do get published by university presses. But the ones that are published, say, by Schiffer, again, a great publishing house, but they're moving on to other stuff. They're not going to be like the second edition about these kind of niche quilts. They're just not going to do that. Unless
and especially not if you're only updating like two things in there. They might be really important things.
Yeah, so Mara Dim's just mentioning an update supplement. Like, that's something that, As an example, sometimes, you'll buy, say, a sewing pattern, and the maker has some kind of sewing pattern hack, like, oh, you can add a hood to this coat, or you can add a different kind of sleeve or something. Well, that addition, that little hack, is out there for free. Like, the maker will put it out there for free, and by getting that little hack, it's not like you got the actual pattern for free. So it'd be like, it's not like you got the book for free, but you have the errata or the updates, and that would be something you could access if you would purchase the book. I don't know that there's any easy answers here, but I'm just throwing it out there because it's frustrating to me to think like I'm accessing something in my research that has been examined for changes and updates, and there's no easy way to access that part of it. Like, I guess.
Well, and that's why I'm thinking in terms of like a generalized place to house all that. Because again, you won't know such and such has been updated if someone else doesn't tell you that's already seen the update. And I mean, we have had that, like, oh, this has been updated, this information's, and some things, like example, you're reading Heritage of Cotton. That there's a lot of things in there that are going to be problematic. The way we're writing, the cultural lens that's being used.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. His cultural lens is actually not as horrible as I expected.
No, but I'm just saying in general, when you're reading books with that much time that's gone by.
Well, yes, and it's a very good example because I have been flipping through Sven Beckert's book and kind of looking, and with the Heritage of Cotton, it's more or less not what's wrong, but what's missing. Not what needs to be changed, but what he didn't know yet.
Sure.
So yeah, I look at Sven Beckert's book as being this incredible like companion, and granted, I haven't finished reading either one, but a great companion to MDC Crawford's book. So yeah, I mean, those are great ways, I think, to update. But yeah, LJ just said, I can imagine how extensive a Wikipedia of updated findings or new findings would be. Yeah, definitely. I'm thinking like in the very specific example I gave of Jane Doe wrote a book. Jane Doe did a study center about her updates. Maybe if she had been able to write just a small paper or pamphlet, and I'm not saying it needs to be something like super overly academic, just a follow on to the book, and someplace like specifically, because we're talking about textiles here, someplace like the University of Nebraska in their database then could add that. Well,
and for all we know, their library does do that. Maybe. We just haven't looked.
We just don't know yet.
Because I would think, I mean, and I don't know how their library functions, because like for me, the closest thing I can compare to that is like the Wake Forest Library. And they did have special search engines for like the religion department. And I never paid attention to whether or not things like that were available. But one thing that was available, if I was searching for books and things, and it's the same thing if you're going to search on like a JSTOR or something, is book reviews. So we do know that kind of database tagging is already a thing. Because if I'm going to search, if I'm looking for books on blah, 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 and you're going to pull up a book review about that book that someone else wrote, then that someone's already laid that framework. We would just have to be plugging in different things to it.
Yeah, Mardim says for individual factoids, that's where a newsletter of a guild group would be useful because a simple article becomes a searchable and quotable source. Yeah.
So AQSG we've already got things like that where people will post in like blanket statements, updates on their research and stuff like that.
Notes and news. But again, not accessible to the general public. I mean, you have to be a member. And, maybe that is just the way some things are with some topics, like niche topics. It's like the general public can go ahead and read this book and they'll get enough good information and it's not like it's wrong. But if you really want the latest and greatest on this, you need to be a member of some organizations. Yeah, I don't.
Well, because the other thing too is with the general public, how would you? There's no way to notify really the general public.
Exactly.
Unless they start putting in like air tags in books and like it automatically like links you into their newsletter. Like I hope we don't.
And I mean that's the thing though with like academic books, highly academic books, you kind of. I don't know that you can necessarily trace who bought it, but it is easier like through say a university that. Or
Well,
you're
yeah, because only 12 people bought it because it's so
exactly
academic.
only 10 people in the world can afford it because it's like the
Yeah.
most expensive book ever. But yeah, because like those type of books will operate on an edition system. So like, oh, I have the third edition. I know that's slightly outdated. Like the third edition doesn't have like the internet in it, whereas the fourth edition changes all the resources to like internet links and stuff like that.
You know, it's funny. There is an academic book out there where my name is in the acknowledgments along with the rest of my graduate student cohort. And the reason for this is because it was a graduate seminar class, and the professor basically, I mean, if I'm like used our class to edit his book. It's basically we like went through and read his book and brought up, issues and whatever. So we're all in the acknowledgments. I do not have a copy of the book. I'm pretty sure most of the students, there were like 8 of us, 10 of us maybe, don't have a copy of the book because it's so expensive.
You can't afford it, yeah.
Like I've looked it up and I've seen like, oh yeah, my name is in the accomplishments because like honestly, like that professor did not care for me at all. But yeah, I and I'm like, who has this book? I don't know.
Yeah, my name is actually in it. Was in it. Well, it still is. I'm sure the book is long out of print, but yeah, I contributed to a book, a little bit like that. It was a resource for like K through 12 teachers. So not exactly.
That's so random.
So, but it was like for art teachers.
Oh, okay.
It was art.
I'm like,
yeah.
Did I miss the time you spent in education?
No, this was specific. Well, I was in the training world. At that point, I was in my training career. But it was specifically like art project type stuff. And I have not followed up the man who wrote the book. My guess is he might be deceased now because he was fairly old. Yeah, that was a fun project to work on, but anyway. Well, thank you for that rousing discussion. I don't think that we came up with any good answers, but it sounds like Alicia may have volunteered to be the database until I'm kidding. I'm not sure if she's still listening, but yeah, I mean, maybe that's something that somebody's working on that we just don't know about. So,
or you just volunteered us to make sure that becomes something. Thanks a lot, Stephanie.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Though, speaking of books, I actually had mentioned this when I was talking to another one of our friends this week, who was asking me, like, do you have a copy of this? Do I need to send you screenshots from, and I was thinking I'd mentioned this before in one of our AQSG committee meetings, but there's a lot of, particularly in AQSG, there's a lot of members that are older or are downsizing, and, they have the giant libraries like we do. And they're just ready to, I feel like books are so wonderful, but they're also
very cumbersome.
Burden. Yes, they're a burden if you need to move, if you're downsizing, like, what is it? Swedish death cleaning probably tells you, get rid of every book. If it's not a digital book, get rid of it. So, I know lots of people are kind of downsizing in their collections, and so I know some people are selling on eBay, and because I bought some Quilters Newsletter magazines like over the last summer, and when I got it, I glanced at the return address on the envelope, and I was like, I know this name. This is an AQSG member. And then, at seminar, people will bring books, although this year members were asked not to bring books because they still had a lot left over, and it's, cheap book sale, like $5 a book kind of thing. But I started thinking, like, is there some way to sort of broker the sort of book exchanges? So, like, I'm new to research and I'm looking for, this list of books, or I don't have any books and I'm kind of looking for the starter pack, and this person over here is, a seasoned researcher who only wants to focus, very narrowly, and is downsizing and is going to take, how do we connect those people? And without it being a major burden to the person who's getting rid of their books, So I'd had some ideas. I was like, I have a storage unit that could have room for a small bookshelf But I'm like, I don't want to become like the library that has to mail out books. So, um, yeah, I was just thinking about that recently. I don't know if you guys have any suggestions. Like,
I mean, we already like I've already got a pretty substantial pile of books. You know, for anyone
yeah,
that's
I know you
interested,
do.
like our
Yeah.
our Facebook group and our Instagram has books that we are moving along, or you can ask if there's one that we have. I just slowly add them
Yeah. Well, and
to.
maybe that's the thing. Like, we just kind of, we could work it into, say, I mean, our Facebook group. If you're looking for a book, post it. We'll find a person that has it. I don't know.
Alicia also
Mario, Tim,
said
I
that she
understood
did
what you said.
not volunteer herself. to-
I'm just messing with you. I'm just seeing if you're still there. um, so Mario said, cleaned my room and found the Book of a Thousand Thimbles. I'm wondering if that's. I have a book. I have one that's, I think, A Thousand Rings. It was back when I was in my metalsmithing days. So I'm wondering if it's the same, like that same publishing thing where you could. They're kind of like art books, sort of.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if that's the same thing. And it's cool because it's just pages of, like 500 pages of 1,000 items. And it's really cool. Um, uh, so Alicia's doing administrative work. I like the fact that we can be here for people when they're stitching or doing something data
Monotonous.
stuff. Yeah, monotonous stuff. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Of course,
I,
I know when I'm having fun online, I don't know if I'm as productive as I should be. I mean, I have literally sewn an inch of this and we've been here for an hour and a half.
I mean, I finger pressed a bunch of blocks that I have to finger press before I iron because they're on the bias. They're half square triangles. But I'm slowly getting together a stack of, pre-based, pre-prepared EPP pieces for basting. And I do enjoy doing this part just because it's mindless and I find it kind of relaxing. Plus, I already have, a bunch of fabric, in my chunks, semi, ready to go to do this with. Um,
Oh, antique thimbles and collections and information about maker marks. Ooh, that sounds fun. You'll have to let us know what you think as
mhm.
you're reading it, looking through it. I love those kind of books. They're just basically like, I mean, I love essays. I love, thoughts from other people, but I also just love a book that's like a giant picture book of just
Mhm.
pages of stuff to look at and,
And just data.
and like, like to have names and things to look for. Um, but LJ says we need to get our rhythm going for more of these chats. We will have it down to get more done soon. Yeah, yeah. Of course, I'm also always a shiny object person. Like, ooh, squirrel. So I don't know. Did we? I know a few people told us what they were up to. I know Robin was doing a few sort of household type tasks. Sounded like um, a grocery order, a Costco run sort of order. And Alicia's doing data. Um, what's everybody else working on? Are you doing hand sewing projects or yep, small chores. Oh, that's right, Robin. You were doing something a little after the holidays, right? Is that tomorrow? Um, I don't know if you have. Is everybody kind of converging on your house, your kids and stuff? I think it's kind of cool to do something in January. Um, because yeah, I mean, there's like the big letdown after the holidays and January, cold and snowy and um, or whatever, whatever the weather is going on where you are. So I think it's kind of fun to have something in January to look forward to.
So I have something in January to look forward to. Well, other than the virtual events that we were a part of, the Schwenkfelder virtual lecture series that's on the 25th, and then American Quilt Study Group's virtual seminar, which is open to non-members. And the details and the descriptions and all that jazz are like out in the world. If you look at our last video that has the virtual seminar
Mm-hmm.
banner on it, there's links and stuff in there. But on the 26th, I am hosting a handwork open sew at the New England Quilt Museum in the gallery. So you get to sit there all day with a bunch of friends and you get to hand sew surrounded by quilts.
Oh, that sounds so much fun. I wish I was closer so that I could come to
Yeah,
things
really.
like that. And but as you know, it's a bit of a train ride for me, so it's got to be a big thing. So oh, Martin, that's right. You're mending. So you're still working on your mending, and LJ's got 29 patches, 12 Ohio stars. Yeah. Okay, Robin. So yeah, everybody was sick, so you're rearranged. That's nice. That's fun. It's not too long after the holidays. You still kind of got some holiday energy.
Hey, you know what? If you got like some decorations still up, you could still put that Christmas music on. I think it would be more appropriate to have to like put it on for a day after Christmas than to put it on in September, like some people do.
I know. Of course, I've given this gang crap about being too prepared before Christmas. Because I'm like, people who start their Christmas shopping, and then yeah, a couple of them have been like, I do my Christmas shopping early because XYZ, and I'm like, I'm sorry for making fun of you. But I've always wanted to do like a full blown Christmas in July.
Have fun.
I mean, it
When
could be fun, you
there's
know.
a store, there's a shop like an hour from me that I really like. I don't go often just because it's a pain in the butt to get to. Um, because it when I would be going there is with traffic and it just sucks. But anywho, she hosts once a month this thing called um oh my God. Why am I having such a brain fart? It's a Friday night sewing thing. Oh my God, I can't think of what she calls it off the top of my head now. But anyways, you go for like it's like 5 to 11. I think it's 5 to 11. I haven't gone in a while, you could tell. Um but I go there. I had met a girlfriend of mine like going there because she lives in New Hampshire. And when I was there once, they were talking about other classes and things and events that she offers throughout the year. She does something big for Cinco de Mayo, like an all-day event. And then one day, my friend Christine, that I go there to sit with, um, she was like, she's doing a Christmas in July thing, and they're gonna have like a mystery quill all day, and they're gonna play Christmas music, and they're gonna do all this stuff. And she's all excited, and she's trying to talk me into going. And I was like, later, like, no, thank you. I could not be. Now, was still working retail at the time, and part of the reason I hate
Yeah.
Christmas in July is because retail people have Christmas from September through mid-January. So
Yeah.
I can't. I had talked about this on another stream where I was like, the only time I ever get the hankering to maybe work on something Christmas related is during Christmas. Um, but I guess her Christmas in July is a really big deal, and like it sells out, and I'm just like, no,
I don't know. I think.
no,
Hey,
thank you, bah
JB.
humbug. Like, I'll be at the lake. Um, oh, Mardim, I really wish that you could be at that open sew thing too. This is a first time for this event. It's a test run. And the reason it's handwork is just because machines get messy and I don't want to deal with a cutting table and an ironing table, like all that just. And I just don't think the way the gallery's set up, it's going to be Stephanie in that really big gallery that you have that
Mm-hmm.
big pan of that I sent you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, that's a nice big space to sort of spread out in.
it's yes, it's a very nice. Well, it used that space used to be called the classroom. And so and also for me it was more so like Steph, you and I have talked about this at museums before, but you know, sometimes you're at a museum and you just want to just sit there and ponder stuff, but there's
Mm-hmm.
nowhere to sit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not like, especially like at the MFA, for anyone that's ever gone there and gone into like the hall of like the masters, and there are these massive, massive canvases that they have them all over the wall from the floor to the ceiling. The ceiling is like 2 stories tall. To sort of see a lot of it, you literally have to go like this.
Yeah. I just have to
And
lay down on the floor.
yeah, and I've said I want to be able to like lay down and just lay here and look at them for a while, but it's not set up to do that. And another friend of ours once telling me about an exhibit that she went to that was so awesome. She just sat in there for like 2 hours to the point where a guard asked if she was okay. And so I don't understand this culture of like fly-by viewing of art,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I think that tourism has really put um, that stress on viewing art. Um, Plus, museums have so much stuff, and a lot of museums, it's like there's no way you could look at everything, even in a full day, to
Hmm.
really spend the time looking at things. So, um, I kind of understand that, like flying through, you kind of want to get your, I mean, not necessarily
Well,
bang for
I
your
mean,
buck,
so I
but
guess I guess I
you
guess
know,
what I mean is I understand it from the viewer perspective
hmm
if time is short. What I mean is museums
yeah,
feed into that by not
hmm
providing space to ponder. And the
hmm
reason, if you remember that you and I are talking about it, is because we had recently been to a large museum that had
hmm
space set aside for long-term viewing.
yeah.
Specifically, and this was at the Newark, right? Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think you had
Yeah, it was at
mentioned
the Newark.
that. Hmm
There were a couple of galleries that Steph and I were, and we were flying through things because we had a limited amount of time to do some things.
hmm
But there were some galleries we walked into that had literal couches in them
hmm
to sit and ponder and what Alicia, I agree with you with the benches, but the thing I specifically wish I could have, and I understand why I don't, but I wish I could have comfortable seating with like back support, like to literally sit.
Yeah.
A bench, I just want to die.
hmm
Like,
You also have to think about the fact that, particularly with public museums, where you don't have to pay to get in. Like, I'll give you the example, the Baltimore Museum
I
of
was gonna
Art.
say, I don't know, I don't have access to too many museums like that.
Yeah. So, well, but the big ones like Baltimore Museum of Art and the Boston MFA.
You have to pay to get in there.
Oh, do you? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
the Baltimore Museum of Art, you don't. So, or the Smithsonian, all the Smithsonian museums. They all do have benches, or at least in my experience, or not in every gallery, but they have a decent number of benches, I think. But the challenge is they don't want people coming in and just like popping a squat and staying all day,
Hmm.
you know, unhoused individuals and such.
Yeah, the fact that you mentioned the MFA, have you ever been there?
The Boston MFA?
Yeah.
No.
So there is some really gorgeous space in there in like the older parts of the building, where they do it's not part of galleries. It's just like they call it like the rotunda.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of looks like one of the old, really fancy libraries, like the New York Library or the Boston Public Library.
Mm-hmm.
And there are chairs in there, but you're not viewing art in there. You're just hanging around. And I would love to do that because it's just such a beautiful space. The
Mm-hmm.
architecture is really gorgeous. And I often wish that there were more places throughout museums, even if not necessarily in an art exhibit space, that invited a slowdown.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is just, it's often so rushed. And the thing about museums for me is I'm so excited
Yeah.
and I want to take so much in that I'm very tired. Right as when I walk in the door, it's an overload to my brain
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really tired. So I wish that there was like we encouraged people to slow down and to, saunter and really take in and to relax and to read and to this and to that. Um, and that's not like I recently there was an exhibit in Boston. It was not at the MFA. They call it quote the castle. And it's a castle looking type building on the outside, but the inside it's just a big exhibition type space. So they often will have big exhibits in there. Like you'll see, like right now, what's in there is that big Titanic exhibit that you see
Mm-hmm.
ads for on social media all the time. So there was one in there recently about the Holocaust. And Sunday and I went to it. It's a very big exhibit space. So I think we were in there for 2.5 hours going through this exhibit. There was
Mm-hmm.
lots to read, and we read it. There was video, there were artifacts, there were this or that, but there was like never anywhere to sit, which I would also just argue is like, that sounds like an ADA issue.
Yeah, Robin
But
just mentioned as a person with mobility issues, some of these
mhm.
places to sit. Yeah.
And I do remember by the time we got closer to the end of the exhibit, I started to feel very hot and a little faint just because it's a lot to take in, especially that kind of an exhibit. It's
Mm-hmm.
very distressing.
Yeah.
The imagery that you see in there, I was gonna say if that exhibit does travel, if it's traveling near you, it's go see it, but just be warned, it's a lot. Um, so not have like there were like two benches to sit at the very last stop. You had these stops and then you had this earphone thing that you could
Mm-hmm.
hear
Yeah, like the
audio.
guided tour kind of thing, or the
Yep.
audio pieces. Yeah.
And it matched with video. They had like two tiny little benches, but there were 50 people,
Oh, yeah.
standing there, even though it's a timed exhibit. So there's still like this, it's part of like our hustle culture, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
where it's like do things fast, make sure you do all the things and like
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
um
mean. Like tourism has
mhm,
definitely caused kind of some of that, and I mean it's great. Our ability to go and travel and see museums is never. You can see so much online, and the
mhm,
museums you can't see, much online. It's still easy to travel there.
sure.
Comparatively so, considering our modern conveniences.
Imagine
Um,
too if we reach the point of teleportation.
I know, just be like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to the V&A today, and here
Yeah.
I am at the V&A.
I love
um,
how you just did that like Genie. Bling.
Janet said, sat and looked at a carpet in the V&A museum, and sections of it were lit up every 15 minutes. That's cool. And I watched the children doing a project as they sat on the floor. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're a younger person, nobody cares if you sit on the floor as long as you're out of the way. I've seen lots of art students and stuff just kind of sitting up against a wall sketching, in museums
There
and
was
stuff.
at the MFA in the Greek and Roman wing, which I had to spend a decent amount of time in when I was doing my bachelor's because I had professors in my classics department, more than one. One was for Greek archaeology, and I think the other was Egyptian archaeology. They would make scavenger hunts for us in the MFA,
Ooh,
which
fun.
was
Yeah.
so fun. Well, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend at the time who she got her bachelor's in classics, and she was an art history professor for high school. And she would be like, "Oh my God, I want to come and help." And then she actually started making some of them for her students for extra credit. But anyways, they were super fun. But the thing that stinks about those galleries is they have to keep the heat and humidity at a certain point
Mm-hmm.
for the artifacts. And we were there, and I think it was like a warmer month of the year. And at one point, I was getting like I faint, and I had to like sit down, and I literally sit down, and I put my face against the cold marble tile wall because I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna pass out." Um, and how embarrassing would that be if I did?
Yeah, a
Um,
little bit.
Yeah, Alicia, you should totally do a scavenger hunt in your like
Yeah,
it's so cool.
yeah, now that you mentioned that, so when I was getting my undergraduate, because I ended up getting enough credits to minor in art history, I took a class on Virginia architecture.
Hmm.
And I was going to school in Richmond, so we were able to do a walking tour of the Richmond pieces of Virginia architecture because there's Revolutionary War history there, there's Civil War history. The Civil War history being really the bigger. There's more to see with Civil War history
Hmm.
there than Revolutionary because old stuff. Um, but that was so fun, and it was a Saturday. We had to go. It was like part of our grade to show up and be there. And he, walked us up through the major parts. If you know Richmond, Virginia, you know what I'm talking about. Like from the Fan up into, the Chaco and all that. And then, we were told, like, of course, this was 1990. It was 94, maybe. So no cell phones. If you're going to take pictures, you were carrying a film camera. But we had to take notebooks and we had to take notes on what he told us because it was a scavenger hunt through our notes that we then had to do like as like a test from the tour. And I thought that was really fun because some of it I was like, yes, I did write that down. And then other ones I'm like, oh crap, I remember he talked about this, but I didn't write it down. Oh no. But it was a fun test, of our knowledge after we came back from that walking tour. And of course, we'd already done, chapters on all of the different major buildings and stuff, to know what all of the different columns are, Ionic and Doric. And Corinthian.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was fun. I have to say, like, architecture is not really my big, thing, but it's definitely really fun. And, Alicia, I do know that there are some museums that, like, that's, upon admission, ask them if, do they want to do a scavenger hunt, and then you can hand them like a bingo card kind of thing to find stuff. A lot of fun.
Yeah,
I like that idea better than mix and mingle scavenger hunt at networking events. The one where you have to like find a person that grew up in the same town you did. Find a person that's been to all 50 states.
God.
And it's just like, oh God. Because that just turns into, hey, have you been to all 50 states? No? Oh, that guy over there has? Okay, bye.
Yeah, you don't actually get to know any.
Yeah, I did that recently. It was probably 2 years ago. And I was just like, oh no, please don't make me do this. I came here to meet one specific person. I don't want to talk to these people.
Yeah, Alicia, for yours, you could almost do like if you do a scavenger hunt, you could have like a tiny little like giveaway for people that complete it. I don't really know what that would be, but
I don't know. Yeah, like a bookmark or something. Something simple and easy.
But yeah, they're so fun.
Yeah,
I really wish
people
I
get
could spend more
competitive
time
with that
with
kind
you.
of stuff too. I love it.
Well,
I like to get competitive with nerdy stuff.
the girlfriend of mine that went with me to do those scavenger hunts, and there's at least 2 that I remember specifically doing, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was more than that. But she herself would create every year with some other members of her family a big road race, like this road rally thing. Oh my God, it was insane. And it was basically like a scavenger hunt in your car. And it was and you had teams. I did it 1 year because at the time I was dating her brother. That didn't work out, but I stayed friends with her. And this thing is insane. It was a multi-town. Like I remember we did it, and this was in Natick. And at one point, part of it, we ended up at like Revere Beach, which is in Boston. Like,
Okay.
it took all day. It was just bananas. And there were like little side quests you had to do while you're doing this road rally. Like you had to quote buy a gallon of the cheapest gas you can find.
Oh my gosh.
Like all of these different things. It was insane. They were like really neat.
That kind of stuff is fun. I've never been involved or, been able to do a full-blown like that kind of scavenger hunt, like a team of people released in a city or multiple cities, I guess. I
think we touched something like 8 towns.
Wow.
That's
extensive.
It was, and they had to drive it like the night before to make sure everything was still active. Oh my God, it was just I don't think they still do that because she now has 3 kids. And at that time she had no kids. So it's crazy.
I actually a couple years ago, that's probably only been like 2 years ago, maybe 2. Yeah. There's these groups. I want to say the one that does the things here, they're from England, but it's like it is kind of like a scavenger hunt, and ours was an Alice in Wonderland themed. And it was around Halloween. So me and my friend loves Alice in Wonderland. She's my best friend from high school. and she lives in Virginia, so she came up for it with me, and I can't remember, she dressed up as like the Mad Hatter or something. And then I have my Cheshire Cat costume, and it's the kind of thing where they have a template of what the riddles and everything that you have to decode. So they're like little puzzles and riddles. So they're not specific about necessarily the locations, but they're kind of generic enough, like they can match it up with, your home base happened to be this monument that's in Baltimore, like in the city. And then like the next thing you have to do goes to like, I don't know, it's in front of some kind of pub or, a bar or something. And so that bar kind of represents blah, blah, blah. And so you have to decode this puzzle when you get there. And it's all GPS related. So it's going to know that you got to where you were supposed to go. And then you have to solve this little puzzle there, and then it'll tell you where the next thing they have to go. And it was really fun. It was not, I mean, Baltimore City's got a little up and down. So, it was a little fair amount of walking up and down some hills, but for the most part, it was not, it was not super physically taxing. And it was a lot of fun. And, so me and my good friend, and then I had invited another friend. And she said, "Oh, can one of my friends come?" And I was like, "Of course." I think the ticket I purchased, I could bring up to 10 people. Or no, up to 6 people could be on the ticket. So I was like, "Yeah, if you want to bring," like my son was supposed to go, and then he bailed on me last minute. So I was like, "Yeah, the more the merrier."
Jerk.
Yeah, the more the merrier. So she ended up bringing this random guy she wasn't dating him. He's just a friend. But he actually was really good at what we were doing. So I was like, help us, please. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Hey, Alicia, if you've got, thousands of note cards that you like to use in giveaways, like Stephanie and I would gladly add some Virginia Quilt Museum note cards to things we might give away. Just FYI. You need a little help getting rid of your stuff?
We're always happy to give away swag. I have a pile of things that I've kind of been collecting.
Yeah, I slowly collect things.
Yeah, you guys that come to my stream or you lurk on my stream, I think I'm going to do some giveaways soon, so keep your eyes open.
Someone had mentioned to me in my Young and Millennial Facebook group that because I do a lot of scrap related type quilting. And I get sick of my scraps because if you start with like a yard of fabric and I cut it all up into my, different size bins of things ready to go, you start to get sick of stuff. And I have done kind of like some scrap swapping with friends in order to get more variety. But then someone was also like, you could just give away some of your scraps and you have like an excuse then to break into some other fat quarters or yardage or things like that you have that I don't cut into because I've already got a thing. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, that's an idea. Because I don't want to throw them out. Like, I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah, so on Instagram, I have been a member, and maybe suggest this to the people that are mentioning this in the group. I've been part of scrap exchanges, or just, I'm looking for these types of scraps. If you've got them, send them to me. And, it's like...
Yeah, Bonnie Hunter does that.
Yeah, and I did that, it's probably been a year or two ago. But yeah, I had like piles and piles of a particular... they weren't polka dots. I'm trying to remember... It was something very specific. Anyway, I was like, I got piles of that. So, I made like a little package, and, it's not, little padded envelope, little tiny. You can get a lot in there.
Yeah.
That was like cram.
Alicia, honey, do you have stickers? Can you put a sticker on the back of the card? Just saying. You can add a little something to an out of print card that,
Are they individual cards or are they like sets? Because, you could put a VQM sticker on, like,
a little sticker on the back of it.
Yeah, but a single card sometimes. What are you gonna do? Yeah, I like having note cards that are specifically quilty. Because probably the only people that I regularly correspond with, besides my mother, are people that are quilty are textile oriented, and I don't really send mail to anybody else. So
Yeah, see, Alicia, if you got individuals and you were going to send them
uh,
to send us 20 of them and just stick a Virginia Coal Museum sticker on the back. You don't have to, but I'm just
don't
saying.
you love how Jill creates a project for you and it involves giving
But
stuff
it's
away?
a beneficial one. It's a mutually beneficial. She gets rid of crap. We help them get rid of crap. We're sending out things that say plus also, I mean, we would also just like make sure that we give you credit and in the like this thing came from here. But if you don't want to and that's too much effort, don't worry about it. I luckily for me, when the New England Quilt Museum, because they have quilt related cards that they get in from people, when they are like clearancing them out, we get to see them before anyone else does. So I, always ding ding ding, give me that.
And I think note cards and like postcards they don't get like the I don't know the whatever
The respect they deserve.
Yeah, because I mean,
Because we're so digital now.
A postcard, yeah, but I mean, I think like when I was a kid, of course, any place that we went, my parents took me to. My mom is always a souvenir person, and so in theory, she would find something to buy that I could have that would be. But inevitably, I always wanted like something that was a toy, and it had nothing about the place we visited on it. So she would always make sure that like we had something like a postcard or something like that. And I started doing the same thing with my son. When he was little, if any place we went had one of those penny machines, where you put the penny in and you crank it and it, I don't know, it's like 50 cents and a penny and you crank it and you get that little souvenir penny. So he's got piles of those. And I think those are such nice little, like, it doesn't take up a lot of room, a lot of space. You can kind of put it like, postcards you could put like in a little scrapbook or something. I just think we don't keep our memories the same way we used to, and it irritates me, honestly, when Facebook tells me I need to look at a memory because I'm like, oh, wow, that was not a joyful memory. Don't show me that. Or, that picture.
You can turn that off.
Yeah. Or I think what's irritating to me, and I'm irritated with myself, is sometimes I'll, back in the day, I would post a picture and it would not be a super picture of the memory. It would be like, as an example, I went to a place with a friend, and so it would be a picture of us like hugging each other, and that's it. And I'm like, of course, that's a good memory. I'm not, but it's like,
no, it's not. You hate hugs.
But what I'm saying is, like, as an example, I went to, I was in Nashville. Oh gosh, this has been a number of years ago, but I was working an event as a consultant, a contractor, but my friend still worked for the company, and she was there, and so we have this great picture of us at this country western bar, like hugging each other, but there's no picture of the bar itself, and I don't even remember what the name of the bar was, but it was like one of those, fairly famous places that's on that major street in Nashville, and I can't remember the name of the street. I don't know if Druid's still here, she might know. But in any event, so when it shows me that picture, I'm like, it was so great to remember my friend, but I'm also like, the memory of having gone to this place, I don't exactly have that memory. So, yes, I do know they make those notebooks to hold those pressed pennies. I don't think we ever got one, but I would always see them. He loved to keep all of his in a little box.
Penny thing, like, is that still a thing? I feel like I don't see those things anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think it still is. Oh, you don't know much about Nashville, Druid. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've, post-COVID, having been to any place that would have that. Because I always feel like it's like zoos and natural science museums and, like something in Gettysburg, the Liberty Bell. I think he has a Liberty Bell one. So yeah, but he always loved to keep his in a little box when he was young. He was little. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, Alicia saw one a few weeks ago in Florida. Of course, it's in Florida.
Florida's got everything. They have pressed penny machines and alligators and crazy people that do weird things.
Yep.
Yes, at the zoo.
And laws that move backwards.
Yes, at the zoo. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, really, it's amusement parks. Yeah, I know Six Flags.
I feel like one of the last places I saw one was on like a boardwalk.
Mm-hmm.
Like in like New Jersey.
And that might very well be where they have them now. Oh, they're a bit more than 50 cents. Yeah. You need a credit card.
They're like $20. Yeah. They probably take credit cards now.
Yeah. Oh, you found your notebook. Yeah, it's yeah, I still, even if it cost $1 or $2, I would still do those because, again, especially if the things were cute, you know, and it was really representative of the place and not something like, I don't want to get a Hello Kitty
an ashtray.
Yeah, I want, yeah. Ah, the national parks, yes. We have a couple of national parks ones too. Yeah, so yeah, I feel like those are the kind of places where they're major destinations, but it's definitely like kid oriented kind of. It's places where families would go. Is where you're generally going to see them. But yeah, I mean, they always talk about how worthless pennies are. And I mean, remember during the pandemic, it was like, you couldn't get pennies. They were always begging for pennies.
Oh no, having to do the cash office at Kohl's during COVID, it was all change because things weren't circulating. And I had a limit to how much change I was allowed to order each week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I mean a limit. Mm-hmm. Like we used to order change by like big, like a box, like
yeah, I remember that
$50 and stuff. I could only order change by the roll, and I could only have like 2 rolls of quarters.
Oh my gosh!
And like 5 rolls of dimes, and like for a store that had 17 cash registers. Now, obviously, they weren't all open during COVID, but you know what I mean? Like, we really got down to the wire to the point where I don't know if they did this company-wide. They probably had to, but I had offered to my boss one day, I'm like, I have a bunch of change at home. You want me to just roll it and bring it in? And she was like, oh my God, why didn't we think about that? And she started like, asking me, because getting your change traded in is a pain in the ass. It's not simple to do at a bank.
No, banks don't want to have anything to do with you in your role.
And doing those Coinstar machines, they take such a massive cut of your change.
Unless you do an Amazon gift card. I don't know if they still do it that way, but Coinstar.
But even still, like, what if you just want some freaking cash?
Yeah, you end up having to pay that fee. Yeah.
Well, I know there was at one point years ago, like when Coinstar first came out, there were people that were really big on, change, for homeless people that, were having a hard time making ends meet. And if at the bare minimum, like if they could collect change, they could at least, blah, blah, blah. So an Amazon gift card's not necessarily very helpful for situations.
Yes.
Like that, but
situations like that. Yes.
Yeah. So I had said to her, I'm like, she's like, you don't think it would be rude to ask the employees? I'm like, you're offering to change in their change. I had something like $200 worth of change that had been collecting because who wants to deal with that?
Yeah.
So, I thought it was great. We had a number of people do it, and there was like this very, very brief amount of time, like 2 weeks maybe, where like we had a healthy amount of change.
You had a big change party.
And something, that change issue among the big reserves, because obviously when we're ordering money, our bank was Bank of America. We're ordering money from the big reserve in Boston. It has to come, armored car from Boston. And that change issue, I think that was still an issue when I left in 2022.
Wow.
That I was still had a limit to how much change I could order.
I definitely saw around here. I don't know so much about places that might more regularly take credit cards. I mean, I'm not saying that you didn't have an issue, at Kohl's, because I'm sure people absolutely pay for cash. But I mean, I would guess at least a decent amount pay with a credit card, either.
Oh yeah,
a credit card or a Kohl's card. So
yeah,
your cash payers are a specific group. But my gosh, places like fast food. I mean, a lot of people just pay for fast food with cash, you know? I mean, I use the apps because
Well,
then
not since COVID because fast food's so expensive now.
well, that, but also, you know, then, you know, cashless kind of systems really, you know, totally pushed. But yeah, you know, I mean, I remember, you know, stop by Chick-fil-A and I've always used the app, but they'd have the sign like, please give us your change. We have a change shortage.
Yeah.
You know, no big bills and, you know, exact change appreciated and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So.
you know, it's funny. People didn't want change until they couldn't have change. And then I swear, everyone's like, give me that $5 change only in coins, no dollar bills. Like I can remember the constant anxiety cashiers would have because their drawers would be so low
Yeah.
on
Like,
change.
oh
And there were
no, I only
mornings,
have 4 quarters in here.
yeah, there were mornings when I had to open those registers and they only got 4 quarters.
Wow. Yeah.
We always used to keep, their, whatever they had in their cups there, their change cups, but then they got an extra roll of each coin sitting in their register for them.
Mm-hmm.
It made counting the change a lot easier because I had to count, even though they count the registers at night, I still had to count them every morning. Um, and luckily Kohl's also dropped the starting register denomination as well because we didn't need as much cash in there in the morning. But yeah, that was so obnoxious. And for actually quite some time, my boss didn't even believe me that I wasn't allowed to order certain amounts of change because it's an automated system that you use over the phone, not on a computer. It's over the phone.
Interesting.
Yeah. I had to drag her into the cash office one day and be like, okay, I'm going to order some change. Listen to this. Like, I can't, like, I'm not making stuff up. Because why would I do that? Like, what a weird thing to do.
A big Walker shortbread tin full of change. Yeah. And you never find pennies on the ground. That is true. I find less change on the ground. My mother taught me you never ever walk past money on the ground, even if it's just a penny, because pennies make dollars. We actually have one of those big, like, be like Ernest and Julio Gallo or whatever, one of those wine jugs that's about that big. And at one time we got it full of change. And I'm trying to remember how much money was in there. It was a couple hundred. There's a lot of pennies, so unfortunately it wasn't as much as we had hoped. Because we were planning, we're gonna fill this jar with change, this big jug with change, and then we'll change it in, and it'll be enough money for us to go take a trip. Well, it ended up being enough money, I think, that we could buy our
dinner.
I want to say we bought our Nintendo Wii is what we ended up using the money for, because it was several $100s. You know, it ended up being. Oh, and my son just thought it was the best thing.
I never understood people that collect change in those big, huge water jugs, that go in those like water dispensers, because I'm like, okay, great. That thing's going to be full and then you can't move it. Because it's too heavy.
That's kind of the way our jug is, because it's glass and it's big. I mean, it's not as big as one of those water. It's not like, what are those, like 5-gallon? Or no, they're probably bigger than 5 gallons, some of them. But yeah, this thing is maybe like 3 gallons. It's not that big, but yeah, I mean, what we would do is we'd tip it over and then kind of just shake it. Oh, that was a bad.
Yeah, it would take you like 3 days.
Shake it, not shake it. You're not looking at me. That was awful.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Shake it, not shake it again.
I said we would turn it on its side and then shake it. Shake it. Anyway, that didn't land. So anyway, we would just shake it out and kind of scoop it up and put it in containers. But 401k jars, I love that, Mama. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, that's a good way to do some small pile up savings like that.
Yeah, and I always thought, we kind of struggled with this when Connor was little, kind of teaching him finances, and he would have an allowance on and off because there would be times when he would be so great about doing chores, and then it got to the point where I'm like, I'm not giving you an allowance anymore because I have to nag the crap out of you to do the chores. And I ended up doing them myself. And, like, the rearing of children, it'll just take years off your life. But he always was really excited about seeing the change. And so, yeah, that was something where we could kind of, leverage that to get him excited about things.
Bye,
Gotta pay attention to
Robin.
that shaking. Yep. Well, good luck at your grocery order. You have a wonderful day. I'm so, so glad you were here, Robin. I hope you have a
Wow,
good
Mama
afternoon.
is a fan ends up with 1,500 at the end of the year. Wow.
That's awesome. That means you
Yeah.
have quarters in your change. I remember when, so anytime I worked at a place that had a vending machine in like the break room, I never had change because I'd save all my quarters for the vending machine. So during those years, we would have the sad pennies only in our change bucket. But yeah, we got when we were like real high rollers and there was no no vending machines where we were working and stuff. Rob would come home with like pockets full of quarters and dimes and stuff. So yeah, I always feel excited when I have exact change.
Really?
Yes, it makes me feel accomplished. It's the little things. Yeah.
I mean, I don't pay for things in cash hardly ever.
I hardly do either, but it is kind of nice when you're like, you know what? I don't have to put $3.29 on a credit card. I actually have that in my purse.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the scenario now that I most often pay for cash is when I'm out sourcing things and I might be at a show
Mm-hmm.
or like Brimfield where cash is king. You're
Yeah.
going to get the best deal sourcing things if you're using cash
Yeah.
for all the obvious reasons. Um so yes, there is on occasion like it comes to something in 15 cents and I'm like, "Oh my God, I have 15 cents." Because the change that I might get back from those cash deals, I keep with that money. I don't move it around. So there's like almost no other decent way to get rid of that change than to actually use it.
Buy things with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Right, because you're not going
yeah.
to take your business change and toss it in your change bucket or your change tray. Yeah.
hmm
You have to, even if it's a
I'd
few
probably
cents.
do better to like just throw it on the floor at a show and let someone else pick it up because there's, um it's really hard to get rid of change.
Speaking of shows
Um,
and shopping, I mean, we're kind of in the wintry times now, but what's the next big one that you'll go to?
there was one last Sunday
Mm-hmm.
called the Boxborough Show that you've heard me go to before.
Mm-hmm.
That that last Sunday show was their first show of the season for them. It runs like they have like 8 shows a year. It's like every other month and it goes to like October, some jazz like that. I didn't end up going to that show because two reasons. One, I remembered it like the Saturday night before and it was during my you know crap sleep schedule, go to bed at 4 a.m. kind of thing. So when I woke up, I set my alarm that day for like 9 because it opens at 10. And I just kind of went, man, for one reason, because the last few times I've gone to that show, it's not great as like the first couple times I went to it. The last time I went, there were far less dealers. The only thing I could say was like it wasn't snowy, so like there weren't less dealers because like the weather's bad. Um, I haven't done well the last couple times that I've gone there. And it's a small show.
Mm-hmm.
It was small, but historically fruitful. And I've noticed now going the few times, the dealers that I keep seeing that I might be interested in, they just keep bringing the same thing over and over and over,
Yeah.
which really irks me.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised at people that are having shows in January because I mean, you and I have talked about like as far as auctions, that auction houses that do auctions in January. It's kind of like, I mean, you think about it, historically, people kind of spend their money in January on things like, well, I gotta lose weight, so I'm gonna, for swimsuit season, I'm gonna spend my money on a Weight Watchers membership, or I, want to hit the white sales in January, or, I mean, traditionally big box retail like Target and Walmart, they have all of the
Clearance.
bins and things to organize and clean your house and stuff like, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I just in traditional retail, that's what people are buying, and so it just surprises me that, especially post holidays, when people have, in theory, run up their credit cards or spent all of their their disposable money, that I would think that January events and auctions and sales and things don't go as well. But on the other hand, maybe they do, because people kind of, you know.
Well, I haven't talked to other dealers about this like specifically, so this is just a theory.
Mm-hmm.
But their books have renewed for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So like their budget for their buying purposes
Mm-hmm.
um have, quote
Well,
unquote
yeah. I mean, I
replenished.
think that makes sense for like hardcore collectors, yeah. And
Well,
and
I'm just talking
and
about dealers.
people like you that are, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
But that being said, I don't currently feel that way about like my buying budget. That like, oh, it's January. I don't feel that
Yeah,
way.
I get it. Oh,
No, I
Maradim says,
actually
oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say, Maradim says using cash for antique shopping days. I can say, when you're doing stuff like that, thrift shopping, antique shopping, any kind of like, yard sailing, if you do everything in cash, you stick to a budget. It is so easy, in my opinion. I mean, because I've suffered from this. Go into, on antique shopping, and you're bouncing from store to store or whatever, or
hmm
booth to booth, and you're like, oh, I love this thing. I'll just put it on a credit card. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to stick to a budget, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I was just like yelling at myself last night because there's been so many like this happened and then this happened and this happened that I've been like really lazy lately about posting items on my Instagram um page for sale. And I have photos of stuff ready to go. I just have to like sit down, price them and post them. And I've just been like, oh my God, I've just been like such a turd about doing it. Like I just need to just like do it. And it's one of those things where if I like get into like a decent like uh pattern and I stick with it, then like I'm good. But like if something happens, like I get really sick or something where I like fall off the wagon. Oh my God, I'm
Yeah,
so bad
it's
about.
hard to get back to taking pictures and writing descriptions, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, I know you're doing that to post on your Instagram, and I have to do that. Well, obviously for Instagram, but I have a shop. I have a Shopify shop, so yeah. When I think about, oh, I have a whole bunch of stuff I can add to my shop, but I'm gonna take the pictures and do the admin work on it, and it can be a project.
Yeah, well, and even if I've got it ready to go, like it just, I don't know why, it just gets hard to like pull that trigger for whatever just dumb reason in my brain.
Well,
But like I need to do it because like that's what makes it so I can buy other things, and
well,
keep
here we
things
have a
moving.
whole gaggle of people that, let's see, according to my, it looks like we got about 13 people here. So if all of us would peer pressure Jill into like, hey Jill, where's the new merchandise? I think we can do
Um,
that.
where's the new old stuff?
Yes, the new
Yeah,
old
I
stuff.
have I have some quilts ready to go. I have some tools ready to go. And when I like think about this the most is like 3 a.m.
Of course. That's why you're not sleeping, because you're not getting those jobs done as a
Clearly.
dealer.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm
okay.
just
We all have those times. We just get back on the horse. And that wasn't a demand. I'm just saying in general, because I suffer from that too.
like yeah, like um no, I mean I really need to, and then like obviously like part of getting that to get back on the horse of that is like, um creating other relating posts and reels and that then turn into an ad, and it's just
Yeah.
a lot
The
of
whole
there's a
social
lot of
media.
stuff. Yeah. Um,
Oh, Janet wanted to know what you're working on. Me or Jill or both of us?
I mean, it can be both of us. I am pre-basting a bunch of little hexies. There's a little dot of glue on this little thing, to thread based later. So I've got a little stack here because I have I got a big thing of chunks
Chonks.
of, scrappy stuff. And I had pulled some out when we got started, and I've just been sitting here slowly like gluing and cutting and making a little pile, for later thread basting. And Stephanie might be doing a thing.
I am doing a thing. Let me hold on. I'm kind of finger pressing something here, but a broderie purse piece. And oh my gosh, really should have ironed this before I started. You can see the fold lines. I promise when I pin it down, it's flat. I just need to press those fold lines
We
out.
should have this called Stitch and Glitch No Judgment.
What is that thing that was going on before? Was it before Christmas? Was we listen and don't judge?
We listen, we don't judge.
Yeah. Oh, I listen and judge. But it's okay because I judge myself and I expect to be judged in return. So it's all good. It's all good. It's not malicious. So on my pin cushion, I have, gosh, it's been like months and months and months and months ago. I was working on it's from a quilt that Dr. Dutton documented, and I took the picture, I took a picture of the picture out of one of his scrapbooks. I recently actually found the quilt and where it is.
Oh,
Yeah, now I'm thinking, it's at the Baltimore Historical Society. Or the Maryland Historical Society, their museum. So anyway, but this particular block I was working on, it's an album quilt, and it's a squirrel that's surrounded by this ring of strawberries. And so I have this random velvet strawberry that I made an extra one, and I was like, oh, I'll just applicate this down to a little scrap of fabric. Have I done that? This thing has been stuck within a pin to my my pin cushion for like months. I really need to. I think I'm just gonna like applicate it to the corner of this thing.
do you have a creature back there?
I do.
Hi, creature. You here to show us your butthole?
He's here to be annoying. He was so annoying the other day.
So Martin, I don't know if you follow my business page on Instagram, but I typed it in there for you because since I'm not the one on the YouTube, I can't put a link in the chat.
Oh, I can grab a link.
Stephanie would have to do that.
I can do that. Ow, cat. See, that's what he does. I put my hand.
What does he do?
He starts attacking and biting, and he likes to climb on my shoulder. Were you that committee meeting we had the other day? Were you there? Yeah, he climbed on my shoulder, and the leader of the committee, I grabbed him and was like, "Dump!" And she's like, "Don't throw your cat." I was like, "This cat needs to be thrown. He deserves it." And I'm not throwing him across the room. I'm just dumping him on the floor.
Yeah, it's not WWE SmackDown.
I don't think I've looked up your Instagram from here in a while, so it doesn't want to.
I don't know how easily you're gonna. Do you have Instagram on your computer? Like signed in? Oh, because I was gonna say, if you're not signed in, it's not easy to get stuff.
So now the question is.
And I also like. It is like a goal of mine to like transition to like a website. Like some of the other dealers have done on Instagram, where they're just kind of posting previews of their content, and their new stuff and then whatever. It's just a time-consuming endeavor, but I have been talking about it.
Druid posted it. She beat me to it.
Well, but that's not in the YouTubes.
Yes, this is true. I have posted it in both places, I think. I hope.
Yeah, I will say that is one place where Twitch is superior to YouTube, is anyone can post a link on a Twitch stream.
Well,
where on
if you let
YouTube
them.
only. Oh, well, I mean, I always was allowed to on Mary's, like she always let people
Uh-huh.
post links to things. But in YouTube, only the people in the back end can post links, which I guess has a lot of advantages considering some of the weirdos that end up on YouTube. But
Well, I'm getting ready to post my very, very sadly.
well, one reason you should definitely be posting your shop is because for anybody that likes, the swag, and I know we can't see this. Oh, that see that a little better. Um, Stephanie has a whole swag site for her Twitch stream and for our stream, as well as some other like really cool goodies and stuff
Yeah.
she's got
Thanks,
hiding on
Druid.
there.
Druid's my lifesaver with links and research. She finds things quickly for me when we're reading. And I'm like, what does this word mean? I don't know what this word is. So she'll look it up and give us definitions.
That's
I love
what
that.
that's what friends are for.
Yeah. Um,
I'm just there on your stream to post snarky shit in the comments.
yes. So anyway, I just realized I have not posted on Slow Sewing Shop in like a year. The last time I posted was
Oh,
AQSG
I feel
Winter
so much
Seminar.
better.
AQSG Winter Seminar 2024 was the last post.
Oh yeah, because you did our shirt thing, right?
Yeah, but no, it was actually just an informational post. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
but that's the last time you posted a product, right? Was when you added the shirt for a seminar.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
All right, so
Well,
everyone needs to peer pressure Stephanie, probably even a little more
yes,
than
probably.
me.
And actually, I mean, I have stuff in the shop that it's hand sewing stuff. It's things that honestly, I started the shop because I was buying wholesale stuff for myself to use as an artist. And, I bought a few extra fun things and it was like a lot of my excess, if the needles I like to use, I can't just buy a packet at a time. Wholesale, you have to buy like 10. Well, I could keep 5 for myself and offer the other 5 up for sale. So anyway, that's
Hmm.
that's kind of how my shop came about. And then, as I started collecting antique textiles and things, especially when you buy things in lots from auctions and stuff, you end up
Yeah.
with stuff that you just can't necessarily use. And so I have some of that stuff posted. So, available. So I
You
need
still
to.
have those little like vintage, you should pull it up. Those little vintage kind of curated sets that you put together, are those still on there?
I think so. Yeah, I've sold a couple
Those
of
things were
them.
so cute for people that like vintage sewing stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me go to. All right, I'm gonna put it up here. I'm gonna cover us up for a minute. Well, actually, I guess I could
Let's
just.
just say share your
I can
screen,
just.
weirdo.
I can just share it. Don't tell me what to do.
I'm
Okay.
I gotta.
Okay. Is it? No, it's not sharing it the way I want to because now you're looking at my. Ah. I think I can't. I can't share this the way I want to because of the way.
I mean, I saw it full screen for a second.
But it was for some reason it was sharing the wrong screen. I have to share this. So okay, here's what's confusing. The screen we are currently on is being shared through the streaming software. So when I share, the streaming software is just showing this screen, not the screen I'm sharing. It's complicated. Don't ask
I
questions.
mean, you did have it full screen covering us up for a second.
Yes, covering us up, but that's just because I moved it over. So let's do that. So yeah, this is the quilt study goodies page.
Well,
These are.
I currently don't see anything.
Are you looking at? You can't see it, but
I don't see it on YouTube either.
I do.
Now I do.
Yeah,
Now I do.
it takes a minute to update. So yeah, these are my quilt study goodies. We for seminar this year we put together this Quilt Nerding and CakeTV collab. That's what these things. Then we have Quilt Nerding, and then I have all of my Dr. Dunton stuff here. I have
Mhm.
CakeTV stuff, more Dr. Dunton. So that's what this stuff is. Yeah, notebook, tote bags, and stuff. Oh, and my limited edition Dutton Club charter membership pack. Still have several of those available. um, so yeah, there's this stuff, and then I have let's see, my studio shop is all kinds of randomness. So I have like literal de-stash things that I actually made. The scratch and dent, the vintage textiles and treasures. Some of this stuff is actually kind of cool. Like this is an antique silk apron. It's black. It's kind of lovely. This is a child's apron that I think is probably like it's something that was imported or purchased out of the country. So a lot of this stuff are things that I've gotten, just through auctions and things. And then these are the little treasure boxes. And they've just got a lot of loot in them and some new fabric. This is a Lori Holt. So anyway, that's what those are. I'll get back to posting these.
I'm gonna say, I know you definitely probably have some more stuff lying around that you've been thinking about moving on from.
Yeah, for sure. And my husband's always like, when are you gonna sell some of this crap? That's like when I market it and let people know I have it. Speaking of having quilts, I hung my eagle up over top of the other eagle. I don't know that everybody has necessarily seen this eagle, and of course it's very crooked looking. It's a coverlet. It's like a summer spread. It's not a quilt. It doesn't have batting. But I got this at the AQSG auction, at this last year's seminar at the end of the year. And from what our friend has told us, like this is what Jill loves to call the big booty eagle. This is this traditional. There's this traditional eagle that looks like this, and the original quilt, or the original layout, and there are a number of them. There's not just one. But I think there's one in the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and it's 4 of the eagles, and the blocks are placed in such a way that their heads are facing in, or maybe it's their butts I think it's their heads are facing in. But what our friend told us is, that's what this is based on, the eagle itself. But the parts of the quilt, I can pull this up enough to show you, but it's made in such a way that it's kind of got this red sort of like sashing so there are these plain white corners that have this sashing around it. And what our friend told us, and after I examined it, she's right, what these are big feed sacks that have been cleaned and then split. So this in the center is one big feed sack, I think. And then on the sides, you have other parts of the feed sack on the top, bottom, and the sides. And then the corners, so like if you have like a feed sack laid out and you cut it, then you get corners and you get the long pieces. So it's like, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 feed sacks that make this. I'd have to measure and figure out the measurements, but yeah, so that's what this was. And then so these seams are sewn to the front, and it looks like they're pressed to the side, and then they machine stitched this red strip over to cover the raw edges of the seams.
Oh,
so on the back side of it, you just see a seam. It's just a seam there. The raw edges are actually on the front, and then this strip has been covering it up. And so our friend was asking about this because she said she'd never seen one with an eagle, but that this is a common, particularly in like southeastern Pennsylvania, this was a common thing to do with the sacks, is to cut them like that, and then use strips to cover up the seam lines. So I thought that was really cool to find that out. I bought it, or won it at an auction, went after it because of the eagle itself. And I think it's mid-century. I want to say it's 1950s, I think was the guess. But then after I did acquire it at the auction, and our friend told us like, oh, this is what I think this is. I was like, oh, so this has an even secondary sort of cool thing about it. That, yeah. So I'm gonna bring it to a quilt study so she can examine it again,
Mhm.
and see like if she has any other things to say about it. And I need to write all that down and attach it to the back of it. So
When
every
is your next like quilt study group thing?
I think it's week after next. I think it's January 22nd. Yeah, it's January 22nd.
Lucky you.
Well, it's handy that it is during oh yeah, I just pulled up all of mine. I keep forgetting what gets shared on the screen because I just pulled up all of my personal notifications. But anyway, yeah. So the one on the 22nd is the sort of a bigger study group that's on the eastern shore of Maryland. It's about a 2 hour
Mhm.
drive for me, but I think it's worth it because of the number of people that go, and several people that we're friends with are there, and so it's always a nice time to get to see them because they're not close to me, so I don't get to see them very often unless we go to a quilt study. So
Mhm.
that's always really nice, and yeah, it'll just be weather cooperating. It'll be nice to just get out there. I haven't been out there since before the holidays, so.
Is that the one? I'm sorry if you just said this, but is that the one that's a bit of a drive for you?
Yeah, the Eastern Shore. Yeah, it's the Eastern
Is
Shore
that
of
the one where
Maryland.
you call me because you have to go over a scary bridge? Yeah. Okay.
I took over the Bay Bridge, which I don't love. It's really long. It's one of those suspension bridges that, or yeah, it's a suspension bridge.
Well,
It's not
and
a
for anyone
drawbridge.
who thinks I was being snarky, I'm totally not because when I have to be on long car rides, I call Stephanie to keep me
Yeah,
company. So like when she calls, it's totally fine.
yeah, and I just don't like driving over the bridge. Yeah, especially since you guys know we had that bridge disaster here in Baltimore,
Yeah.
and that's not a bridge that I can say probably in the 28, 29 years I've lived in Baltimore or outside of Baltimore, I've probably had to cross that bridge like 3 times. So, while that was an absolute tragedy, it didn't affect my commute or travel in any way around them because it's just not going to anything I need to go to. But the Bay Bridge, on the other hand, is a major, like, there are other ways to get to the Eastern Shore, but the Bay Bridge is the easiest way. Like, it's the most common way. And it's one of those bridges, it's a suspension bridge, and it's one of the bridges where they can divert traffic so that if, like in the summer when people are going to the beach, it will back up really bad. So they'll divert traffic in a way that you've got the 2 lanes that are going to the beach, and then the return lanes are actually two-way. So you'll have one lane of like the one span of the bridge, one lane's going back to Baltimore, the other lane is going to the shore. And that's scary. And they do the same thing in the
Yeah, I've
tunnels.
been on bridges that do that and
Yeah,
it really screws
they
with
do the
you.
same thing in the tunnels here. We have tunnels on 95, which 95 is the major highway system from like Maine to Florida on the East Coast. So it's well traveled. And oh my goodness, it scares me so much. And they have accidents I think more often in the tunnels than they do on the bridge itself. But
Mhm.
so anyway, yeah, I always like to be on the phone with somebody so I could see like yeah.
It can keep your mind occupied. Well, like that time after when I was coming back from the Mid-Atlantic Antique Show that you were helping me at, and I had to drive through some ridiculously scary tunnel, like in the Maryland Baltimore area.
Yeah, that
I
was
don't
you were probably on 895, and it's to get north of Maryland from like just south. Like because I live on the west, I live towards the west. There's a way that I can circumvent the tunnel going north. Like I can get around it, but yeah, if you're just going to go from South Maryland, North Maryland, you're going to end up in the tunnels if you don't know how to
yeah. It
navigate.
was it was one of like Boston has some tunnels that people find kind of scary, but the reason they find them scary is because they go underwater.
Yeah,
They're
and
not tight tunnels. They're
yeah.
very open tunnels.
Yeah.
This tunnel was like this like little tiny tube and it was like 2 lanes and I was on the left side. There's no breakdown and I was boxed in by 18 wheelers.
Mhm.
And I'm
Mhm.
literally just like oh my God, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Well,
Like white knuckling it through this tunnel.
yeah, with the tunnel reminds me of if you've seen Men in Black, where Will Smith is like in the car and or I don't know, maybe Tommy Lee Jones is driving and he's like strap in, and he takes off and the vehicle goes whoop and is like driving
Yeah.
through the tunnel. That's what these tunnels look like because yeah,
Hmm.
they're very bright. They have very bright lights, but they're just very enclosing. And
Yeah, and the thing that makes me anxious about them is if like one accident and you're
mm,
just like ping ponging back and
yeah,
forth. And I'm sitting there, I'm so white knuckled because I noticed the lanes in there are pretty tight. And I'm like, if it one small adjustment
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be
Yeah,
eaten alive by these
and you're
trucks.
going 55.
Yeah,
It's not
well,
like you're
I was trying to go more like 30 and the trucks were going like 70. Like,
yeah.
um,
So and then
it was
and what?
not fun.
Yeah. So what will happen in that case is there's two tunnels. So you're going through the one tunnel. If there's an accident in that tunnel, they'll shut it down, and the other
And make
tunnel
the other one
becomes
two-way.
two-way. Yeah. Yeah. But what Jana said, there's a bridge in Virginia that the state police will drive your car across for you. I suspect. Are you talking about? It's like in Hampton Roads. It's like a causeway type of bridge. It is. It is the longest bridge I think I've ever been on my life. It just goes on and on forever. I have relatives that live down there, and I think they avoid it at all costs.
There is another bridge in Virginia. What's one of the major? Is it 81?
Yeah, is
Like
it
it is.
is it in the Shenandoah? There's like some crazy suspension bridge in the Shenandoah.
There, it's not a suspension bridge. It's one of those bridges where like if you were looking at it from the side, it looks like a Roman like
Yes,
aqueduct type
yes, a
bridge.
big beautiful like stone arch. Yeah. Okay.
It's not beautiful to drive on. Um, it's terrifying. Like for me, one of the things I find to be really scary about bridges like that is when I don't know what's under it. I can't see what's under it because it's so high.
Probably best you don't
Um,
know.
so this one is really high. I have no idea if it's just a chasm or if it's water. I've never paid attention.
I
Um,
think what you might be talking about is it actually might have been an old like train thing that
yeah,
then
yeah, it looks like one of those.
when they did redid the high or they did the international or the national highway system, there were some places where they changed train bridges into like just regular, like car bridges, and that might be what you're talking about. One of them, I'm not sure.
It could be. Also for me, I'm like, how could something that tall be stable?
Right.
You know? Also, there it's just the sides of it is just Jersey barriers. And we know that those are not impenetrable.
Well,
Um,
they're not nailed down, so
well,
in
they
theory,
don't, yeah, they don't like they just slow something down, they don't stop it. So if there's a good collision on there, you're just yeah, and one of the things that really makes me think about it is I had been like I watched some reel where an 18-wheeler got hit by a car, like the front of it, and it sent the cab part off the side of the bridge. The truck didn't follow. They were able to get the driver out, but this person's literally just hanging over
yeah.
the side of this fucking bridge.
Yeah, you
So,
see this kind of thing you see in movies where Spider-Man's going to come rescue them. That must be real scary in real life when
yeah, so
it
when it's
happens.
literally just a Jersey barrier, I'm white knuckling. Plus 81 is a major like trucking route
It is. Yep.
and there's tons of trucks. And oftentimes when I've had to drive over this bridge, it would be coming home from Quiltville Inn in Virginia, which is right on the border of Virginia and North Carolina. And I would leave there early in the morning. And this bridge at the time of day I would meet it is covered in fog.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I'm driving on this bridge and it looks like I'm driving into nothing. And
Just taking a little drive, a little scenic drive in the clouds.
it is, oh my God, it's screws with your head so badly that, and I've never like the last couple of times I've done that drive, I've been with a friend, luckily, to help keep my brain in reality. Because like I'm literally driving, and of course your instinct is to brake. Like it looks
Mhm.
like you're driving off the edge of something. And I literally just have to keep sitting there and telling me it's there. The bridge is there. I know it's there. Like just, and it's one of those things where once you get into the fog, cloud, like it moves with you. You know what I mean? Like you can still see, like you're never getting past that point of feeling like you're gonna go off an edge, but you never reach an edge kind of thing. Yes, it's disorienting. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
disorienting is probably the best way to describe
so
it.
I
Yeah.
literally I have to talk to myself to try to turn off my survival instinct, basically. Um, and it really like just disorients me. Like I almost have to like disassociate. And that's why, like, same with the tunnel. I literally, alone or not, I literally have to talk to my, like, I have to scream to myself, like, that I'm okay over and over and over and over again to keep me, like, centered
Hmm.
so I don't, I'm literally just like, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. Like, so that I don't, like, that's the part of the thing they don't understand about some of our infrastructure is if you make infrastructure that causes anxiety, and survival instinct, you could actually could be creating accidents
This is true.
um, for people that might have a hard time staying grounded
Hmm.
in a panic situation, because there's only so much you
Yeah.
can do.
I mean, I can
Certain
say,
things will take
yeah, I
over.
can safely say anything like the tunnels and the bridges when you have two-way in a tunnel or on a span, I will never be comfortable with that. But I do think that if you regularly, like weekly or whatever, cross something scary like that, you do get used to it. And then I think,
No,
especially,
I
as
don't.
well, what I can especially say is like, particularly going out to the Eastern Shore here in Maryland, there are sections where it's very pretty. Like you're looking out and you can see on one side is like the inlet, I don't know what they call it, like, and then you see, like, you could see the mouth of the bay. And then I mean at one point, if you're at like far Eastern Shore, you're looking at the Atlantic Ocean. Um
Hmm.
and in the Shenandoah, like when it's not foggy, you can potentially be looking at like incredible vistas. I mean, it's just so beautiful down there. So yeah. JB, I get through all the scary stuff and then fall apart. Yes. That's called adrenaline.
Hmm.
Adrenaline keeps you going, and then in the end the adrenaline goes boop, and then you're like, I gotta cry.
Well, I've got a girlfriend who's told me, she's like, that's why when we go on these road trips, she's like, I rather that you drive because she's like, I know that you can keep it together. Even though I will sit there, like it's one of those things where you know how people talk where like Lamaze breathing and things, if you acknowledge the pain, and say like ow, 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 it actually like helps it not hurt. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like if I'm acknowledging the fear in the moment, like I can make it through.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, no, it's awful. I will have, before those trips, like the night before, I'll have awful travel anxiety and like that catastrophizing. Once I'm on the road, for some reason that doesn't happen. um and I can just, but oh yeah, thinking about it right now, I it gives me awful anxiety.
Really, I see, and that's the thing. I don't think about it until I have to be there, and I'm there, and I'm going, oh no, the bridge is here already.
I really wish that like our map systems in our phone, you know how like when you're going through options, you have the options to
Mm-hmm.
like avoid highways.
Yeah, avoid
I
toll
really
roads,
wish
avoid bridges and
yeah, I
tunnels.
really wish there was an option to avoid scary bridges and tunnels. And it's funny because I had an out-of-towner here one time that flew. So you have to go through the water tunnels to get to the airport. And we were going through one tunnel in Boston. She's like, "Are we underwater?" I'm like, "No, not yet." And then we go, and she's like, "Are we underwater now?" I'm like, "Yes." And she's like, "Oh my God, it's so scary." For anyone that hasn't been in that tunnel, it's huge. So it's not a claustrophobic situation per se. Yes, you are underwater. But then I also said, "Do you see that there's an escape hatch literally every 50 feet?" every 50 feet, there's an escape hatch. So I was like,
Hmm.
don't get me wrong, I get it. Like, it's not natural. It's weird. Like, I understand completely. But I just said, knowing what I know, like, there's an escape hatch constantly.
Yeah, and
There's also
that is a
places,
good
there's
thing to
also
know.
places to break down. It doesn't feel like the air isn't real in there. Like they actually like pump air into it, and
Hmm.
it's very nice. It doesn't look all run down and scary. We have other tunnels for that. So it's definitely, if I have to choose between that and the spyglass that is the tunnel in Baltimore, I'd rather be underwater in Boston than in, this tiny little thing in Baltimore any day of the week.
Well, what I can say, the one in Baltimore is relatively short, generally
Yeah,
speaking.
yeah, it is. It was pretty short.
Yeah, the ones like I said, the one that's like Virginia Beach, Hampton area, that one is does seem to go on forever, and they have tunnels and bridges that seem to go on forever. Um, I think probably the one that might get me the most, and I think I'm probably overthinking it because I think it's so different than what we're dealing with, is the English Channel tunnel, the channel. But I think that thing is so huge. I mean, literally, you can like take a. I mean, did they have almost like an auto train that, like in some part, like a part? I don't know. Like going through the under the English Channel is pretty long, and I could see how that could be scary. And I know I've seen some
Oh,
movies.
wait, I think they have a high-speed train.
Do they? I can't
Well,
remember what I've
because
seen about it.
if I remember correctly, there's a high-speed train, and it used to be a thing that people would try to like walk through the tunnels and get hit. If I'm remembering correctly, I feel like I've seen us. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I know that I definitely seen some movies that, you know, like action adventure type of movies, and they're going through the English Channel tunnel, and it's like when you get to, like, I don't know, it's the halfway point becomes the French side and all that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's the tunnel I'm talking about.
yeah, and it's interesting actually. Now that I think about it, the movie that I saw about it, there was an identical movie that was supposed to have taken place in the like U.S., and it was about the I guess it was supposed to be this bridge in Texas, one of the border towns, where half of the bridge is U.S. and half of it is Mexico. And I think there was some like a crime, like a murder took place, and the body was literally laying halfway in the U.S. and halfway in Mexico. And so the movie was based on, or vice versa. The other movie was the same thing, but it was the body was found in the tunnel in the English Channel, and half of it was in England and half of it was in France. And it's like, you have to have, I guess, both
It was the
jurisdictions,
same murderer.
possibly. No,
That's that's their calling card.
yeah, I want to say that the British movie, because it was a British movie, the Channel one. I think that one came out first, I think, and then the U.S. Mexico bridge one was the second one that came out. They were both very good. I think the British one was a movie. The U.S. one was a show, like a serialized show. Um, I want to say they were called The Bridge and the Tunnel. I could be wrong about that, but they were very good. I just remember thinking like, oh, that tunnel. Oh, that tunnel. Very
Look, I'm
scary.
like slowly getting a little like
I know. I
staff.
love it. I love it. I love to see that when people post that on social media, like my box of, and they'll put them in like rainbow order, or I love that.
I started doing that, and then I was like, I'll just wait. I'll do that later. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's nice to see everybody's box on social media. Hashtag my box. And then when I get all these, like, see, I got a decent pile here
So
of
that's all
ready.
ready to baste.
Yep. And then I have these little cups. Sorry, LJ, this is might be crinkly, that I bought in like a little package of a
Oh,
few.
yeah.
I bought them for all kinds of reasons, but
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, how am I gonna like store these so they don't like so the glue doesn't come unstuck? And then I was like, oh my God, they perfectly fit in this little thing that fits in my box. Um,
Yes, I
and
love a tiny container that, yeah, is just perfect.
you know, one of the reasons that I bought this, because there's like, I don't know, eight or something in there, was one for like in your lunchbox, like salad dressing,
Yep.
or like a little something something you want to keep separate.
Yep. A little sauce or condiment that you don't want to heat up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, like when you see people on social media do these like meal prep things, and they'll make like a fajita bowl, and they'll make all the containers with the meat and the rice, and then their guacamole. And I was like, how are you gonna heat that up?
Yeah.
It's got literal like, so half me is like, so you're just eating everything cold.
Or
Um,
everything hot. Hot guacamole
yeah,
is not
like
delicious.
no, oh no. Like I don't mind cooked avocado in the right context, but like that would be terrible. So anywho, so that's the reason. But then they ended up in my craft room because of it could have been buttons or something that I was separating something. I don't know. But yeah, when I saw them, I'm like, oh my God, they're like the perfect. They don't fit obviously the bigger ones, but I'm like, it's the perfect size.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I had when I did they were a half inch. I can't remember if they were half inch hexies or I think they had to have been half inch hexies. Pretty small. And
mhm.
yeah, I had some kind of little container that they just fit down in perfectly.
Yeah,
So I was
these ones are half inch.
then maybe I was doing
Someone
quarter inch.
someone had mentioned it might be time to go down to quarter inch, and I don't know. This might be as small as I can go because my fingers like
Yeah.
fumble over themselves trying to handle it.
I think what I'm thinking of is they were quarter inch. That's quarter inch. The sides of it are each quarter inch. Um,
Hmm.
they're super for fussy cutting itty bitty tiny things in them. But the problem is the thickness of your fabric. Like some of the thicker quilting cottons, when you fold the edges over, they're bulky.
Hmm.
So you kind of have to trim it after you've basted them. Yeah. Well, you know what time it is.
Yeah, I'm starving. I
Yeah, me
haven't
too.
eaten anything because I had to rush as soon as I was like getting up to.
Well, yeah, my lunch has been this, and I have not eaten much of it. So
Is that bird food?
no, it is tropical trail mix from Walmart, and it only contains nuts that I can eat. Most trail mixes will include especially healthy trail mixes will include like peanuts, walnuts. I can't eat those.
Cashews. I see a lot of cashews.
Yes, I can eat cashews and almonds. So I buy this, and I love it. And nobody else in the house likes it, so I'm like, oh, mine.
Well, hey, don't forget they make cashew and almond butter
Yes,
if you want like
yeah, I have cashew and
uh,
almond butter. And actually, of the nut butters, nut and seed butters, I prefer sunflower seed butter out of all of them. I don't know if I don't want to say it's closer in taste to peanut butter because it's not at all. But there's just something about it that I just feel like is more like peanut butter sandwich kind of vibes with sunflower butter than necessarily the
I
other
don't
two.
think I've ever had it. I don't
Mhm.
care for almond butter. Well, that's not true. If it's a flavored almond butter,
Like
it's
vanilla.
not,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not half bad. But
Yeah, because almonds can be they yeah.
my favorite peanut butter is like it's from Wegmans. It's an organic peanut butter that's their brand, and it's
Hmm.
just peanuts and salt. There's nothing else
Yeah.
in it. No stabilizing oils, like nothing. And that's when I was telling about good peanut butter. Oh my God. It's it's like to die for. But yeah, I have, and I think I tried cashew butter because I do like the taste of cashews. Cashew butter, it's like it makes my throat feel spicy. I don't even know how
Hmm.
to describe it, but something about, destabilizing the nut like that,
Hmm.
I don't care for, even though
I know that you can use cashew butter in like some sauces and things in like vegan cooking. I know some sauces, and I think even you can make like a sort of a faux cheese out of cashews.
yeah,
I've
but
never had that.
you do that with fresh ones.
Okay, yeah, I've never had any of that. I've only seen like
I have
recipes
had
and
some
stuff.
of that. A girlfriend of mine made stuffed shells at one point where the the ricotta was a vegan scenario, and she used cashews, maybe some tofu and like nutritional yeast, I think. It was delicious. I ate the crap out of it. Am I gonna make it myself? No.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, it seems like it's got many steps to manufacture.
yeah, you have to plan overnight because you have to like soak your
Hmm.
cashews
Yeah,
and
yeah.
some other jazz.
Yeah,
Um,
I generally don't do a whole lot with nuts just because of my allergies. And sometimes, and they talk about, you look at the allergen information on packaging and it'll say, it doesn't contain any nuts, but it'll say, manufactured in a facility, da 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 da. 98% of the time, that has never been a problem for me. Candies and
mhm.
cookies and things like that that are just manufactured in a facility, because generally you're just not going to get cross contamination because they got to keep their facilities clean. I think, I mean, it's really only like maybe in a bakery situation I've experienced a tiny bit of cross contamination one time, but the nut factories, Planters Nut Factory, there's a good chance your peanuts are going to have, or your cashews might have some cross contamination with walnuts or peanuts. And
Mhm.
so, like, I'm not one to go have like handfuls of just roasted nuts for that reason. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, oh, bye, Druid. I will see you on Monday, my lady. Thank you so much.
Oh, Martin
Yeah.
said that she made cashew cheese for quiche once. That sounds interesting.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Martin, if you made that quiche, I would eat that quiche, but I'm not likely to make that myself.
Ah, Robin's
But
back.
yeah, I'm
Just as we were
totally
getting
open to
ready to
having.
wrap up, Robin.
Yeah, because Robin, it's 5,
Yeah,
and
it's
we've
five
been here
o'clock our
since
time.
2.
Yeah.
The time really goes very
It really
fast.
it really does when we're just like blah 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 blah
No,
blah.
I had thought when I was rushing to like get everything here and set up and everything, I was like, maybe I should grab a snack because we're probably gonna go for like 3 hours. But then I was like, you know what? I'm probably not gonna notice till the end.
Yeah.
Anyways, but you know what I did notice? Recovering from my food poisoning, I didn't have to go run to the bathroom. I
Yes.
haven't had any discomfort, knock on wood, the whole time we've been here.
I'm knocking on wood for you as well. Yeah. That is good because I know you were making a run for the border frequently the last few days. I was worrying about you. I know you were saying like it's just a lower intestinal thing. It's not, throwing
Mm-hmm.
up. And I know throwing up is when you really like you're it's harmful to your hydration. But yeah, I was worried about you there for a minute. So I'm glad you're
Just for
feeling
a
better.
just for a minute.
Well, especially on your birthday, when you're having any
You
kind
know,
of
I
like,
honestly, I'm totally honest with you. I really didn't even notice yesterday because historically, I'm so used to my birthday being ruined by weather or illness.
wow,
So, and
another
I
year
really didn't
down.
notice today. So there's still time. I can celebrate on another day. Like it's not a big deal.
Well, my husband appears to be making something. I could smell. I don't know if it's like frozen pizza or some toast or something that smells good. So I'm definitely gonna have to leave this desk and investigate
Yeah.
because Mama wants some pizza if that's what we've got going on. And I know my kid is off work today, so no doubt he's in on this as well. So,
Hmm.
and they'll eat up a
Hmm.
pizza before I even know it's been made. So,
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out with me.
yes, I'm so glad that I'm really really enjoying. Um, January babies are good for snuggling inside. Yep. I like it that we're making this like a regular thing. It's like
Hmm.
I think we all sometimes just need no agenda, just chit chat, take it where it goes, try to stay
And we
mostly.
really went everywhere today.
Yes, I know.
Luckily, thank God we didn't talk about food the whole time.
Well,
Um,
we know we got on tunnels and bridges.
no, I mean, well, I feel like we talked about like some kind of more important things, like about updating research and books and things like that. We talked about scary bridges. We talked about big booty eagles. Um, just stuff we're working on in our sewing life. And you know.
Yeah, there was no food
Did
conversation this week, Robin, because we just, I guess, didn't get around to
well,
it.
I'm
And also,
recovering from food poisoning.
yeah, Jill's, yeah. So,
No, there was food conversation the other day, so you'll have to watch one of the little past streams.
yeah. So do we, I don't know that we don't have a schedule for our February Stitch and Glitch
No,
yet,
that's
but
not out yet.
we'll have that out soon. In the next, probably, what, I don't know, week after next probably is when we'll get around to announcing all
Yeah,
that.
and the only reason we don't have another Stitch and Glitch for this month is because the last 2 Saturdays of the month there's virtual things
Yeah.
going on that we've been talking about.
Yep.
So
Yep. So we wanna definitely attend the Schwenkfelder stuff if we can, and then of course we want to invite all of you to please come to the AQSG stuff if you're interested, because you can, as a non-member, if you're not a member, attend some of the things.
yeah, you can attend a lecture. If at the bare minimum, I would just highly recommend that you buy a ticket and attend the virtual museum tours, which will be New England Quilt Museum, Virginia Quilt Museum, International Quilt Museum, and the Rocky Mountain, because that endeavor supports both AQSG and the museums.
Yeah, so it's the museum tours are like a joint thing between AQSG and the museums. So yeah. So anyway, we will hopefully see you guys on Monday on my stream or our joint stream on Tuesday night. And I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I think we're all due for one with with weather and holiday stuff. And
I am.
Yeah. Okay. So keep doing what you're doing. Relaxing, sewing, knocking out your priorities. It's make it a good weekend. I demand it. All right, guys. Take care. We love you. We'll see you soon.
Bye.